Chapter 28. Everything happened so suddenly that there was no way to guard against it. Not to mention Li Tianlan, who was seriously injured. Even in the whole Sky Academy, there were few people who could react to this scene. That kind of extreme speed was even completely beyond people's thinking. It was precisely because Li Tianlan couldn't react that a few people could observe his real expression. Who was the best in this entrance maneuver? Wang Yuetong from the Wang family of Beihai defeated several senior students in seconds. Her performance was really outstanding. Li Beitian from Mount Shu seemed to be doing nothing, but at the exit of the maze, he managed to control the unification of swords with magnificent sword energy. From the forest, Gu Yulan from Kunlun City defeated Su Mai, the number 2 figure of the elite organization, in a few seconds, which was also amazing. But the most outstanding one was undoubtedly Li Tianlan. He forcibly raised his realm at the Qi-controlling realm and killed Lu Xiaowei, who was at the peak of the fire-flaming realm. This kind of terrifying potential made everyone's scalp numb. Such a performance had already made Li Tianlan the well-deserved first place in the hearts of most teachers. Now they were indeed the first team to appear at the finish line, but the original first place was taken by a female student in their team less than 10 meters away from the finish line. What would Li Tianlan do? Zhuang Huayang sat calmly in his seat and glanced at Li Tianlan calmly. Yi Fengqing seemed to casually lower his head and light a cigarette, but out of the corner of his eyes, he kept staring at Li Tianlan. There was obvious mockery in Gu Yunxia's eyes. The mature woman who had just taken Wang Yuetong and Yu Qingyan to the finish line was also staring at Li Tianlan with a playful look. There was a difference of 30 credits between the first and the third, or the third to the 10th. In the Sky Academy, good friends could turn against each other for a credit, so it went without saying that 30 credits meant a huge amount of wealth. Everyone was very interested in how Li Tianlan would perform in the face of these 30 credits. Li Tianlan's performance was very calm, so calm that people felt it was abnormal. He was just in a trance, and then his eyes became calm. Facing Zhuang Huayang, he bowed slightly and said softly, "Hello, headmaster." "Good." Zhuang Huayang narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, "Good performance. It's good that you're okay." At the same time, the mature woman who brought Wang Yuetong to the finish line and Yi Fengqing also narrowed their eyes and looked at each other tacitly. Li Tianlan's behavior was obviously not what they wanted to see. Even if he was extremely disappointed, angry, resentful, or sincerely congratulating Wang Yuetong, they could understand. However, this new student in front of them was too quiet. Quiet to the point that they had no idea what he was thinking. Such shrewdness was simply unfathomable. If such a person were to grow up, he would definitely not be someone to be trifled with. Li Tianlan continued to move forward, but as soon as he moved, another person blocked his way again. Gu Yunxia. She stood in front of Li Tianlan, expressionless and cold. Li Tianlan stopped, but his expression and eyes did not change at all. His face was not as stiff as a dead man's or as if he had facial paralysis. Instead, he was truly and thoroughly calm and indifferent from the inside out. This kind of mentality was so steady that it made people feel cold in their hearts. "You guys go first." Li Tianlan glanced at Ning Qianqing and Li Beitian. The reward for the 2nd to 10th place was 50 credits. They were all in the same dormitory, so there was no practical meaning to who went first and who went last except to sound nice. When both of them passed the finish line, Li Tianlan looked at Gu Yunxia in front of him and asked slowly, "Director Gu, what can I do for you? Do you know what you've done?" Gu Yunxia looked at Li Tianlan coldly and asked. Feeling the monstrous anger and killing intent in her words, Li Tianlan answered honestly, "I finished the maneuver." This was definitely an extremely accurate but evasive answer, and it was also very sarcastic. Gu Yunxia flew into a rage. She did not change her expression instantly, but her tone directly became high and cold. "Li Tianlan, watch your attitude. You did finish the maneuver, but it doesn't mean anything. You killed the deputy director of teaching of the Sky Academy during the maneuver. You need to give the school an explanation for this matter." She stared at Li Tianlan coldly and said resentfully, "You have to pay for what you've done." Li Tianlan frowned slightly. This was the first time he showed an unusual expression, but the reason was that he hated the saliva that Gu Yunxia sprayed on his face. He quietly took a small step to the left and said lightly, "Director Gu, did you see me kill Lu Xiaowei with your own eyes? Do you have any evidence?" Gu Yunxia was slightly stunned. In fact, during the fight between Li Tianlan and Lu Xiaowei, there was always a layer of dense leaves. What's more, There was a thin layer of ice above the leaves. Under the refraction of light from the ice, there was only a large piece of leaves on the monitor screen. No one could see the scene of Li Tianlan killing Lu Xiuwei with his own hands. But the forest was no longer within the scope of the maneuver, and there were only 2 of them there. If Li Tianlan did not kill Lu Xiuwei, did he commit suicide? Gu Yunxia gritted her teeth. She was so angry that she laughed and said, "How dare you quibble?" Quibble? Li Tianlan's eyes also became cold. "I don't need it, because Lu Xiuwei deserves to die." This sentence could be said to be a real show of his sharpness. Once the hidden sharpness under Li Tianlan's calm appearance broke out, even Gu Yunxia could not bear it, and her face turned livid with anger. Tianlan is right. Lu Xiuwei deserves to die. Beside Wang Yuetong, the mature woman, who was extremely sexy in both appearance and temperament, smiled gently. She looked at Gu Yunxia with eyes as cold as a knife. "Director Gu, we have just discussed about Lu Xiuwei. What's the point of saying this now?" "Oh, I remember, I just heard someone crossing the river. Now it's almost time to land. Is that Director Gu's descendant? Are you buying time for them? Why bother? The 5th and 6th place? What's the practical use of it, except that it sounds better?" Gu Yunxia, who was seen through, suddenly turned around and felt so aggrieved that she almost vomited blood. This year, she became the director of teaching of the Sky Academy. She was originally full of ambition, but now everything was not going well. She felt so uncomfortable that she wanted to kill someone. In fact, there was no difference between the 5th and the 6th place, but the person who came later represented the face of Kunlun City. It was naturally good to be one of the first places, but she could not say this kind of idea on such an occasion. "Don't slander me, let me tell you." "So what if I'm slandering you?" The mature woman gently raised her rosy and delicate lips, and her eyes became sharper. "If I'm wrong, then you'd better get out of my way. Director Yi just said that Li Tianlan didn't do anything wrong. If you dare to touch him, you'll have to get through him first. Now I'm telling you, I'll give you 3 seconds. If you don't get out of my way, then you have to go through me first." Gu Yunxia's face was as ugly as the bottom of a pot. She was embarrassed and resentful, but she did not dare to say anything. Although the woman in front of her was not a director or deputy director, she was also a senior member of the academy. In the next 3 years, she was responsible for teaching the camouflage and lurking courses of the best students in this batch. It could be said that she was the leader of this course group. But what gave Gu Yunxia the most headache was her strength. Gu Yunxia was confident that she could still fight Yi Fengqing. Even if she could not win, at least she would not lose. But if she fought with this woman, it was not a matter of winning or losing, but a matter of life and death. The Wang family of Beihai, codenamed the Enchantress. One of the core experts of the Wang family of Beihai. Nowadays, the Enchantress could be said to be the real second expert in the entire Sky Academy. And as Zhuang Huayang's state continued to decline, it was also a question of how long he could suppress the Enchantress. The Enchantress was a senior member of the Sky Academy in the last session. She also taught camouflage and lurking courses, but in the last year, she also served as the leader of the assassination course group. The leader of the assassination course group had always been a position that only the real experts and the top assassins could hold. The fact that the Enchantress could hold this position was enough to show how terrifying she was. So let alone 3 seconds, Gu Yunxia only hesitated for a second and directly stepped aside. Although it was very embarrassing, it was nothing compared to the consequences of not giving way. Li Tianlan walked past the finish line smoothly. Li Tianlan successfully crossed the finish line, reported his name, got the credit reward, and completed the first maneuver of freshman with the result of 5th place. He came to the Enchantress, bowed slightly and said softly, "Thank you, teacher." "I'm the Enchantress." The Enchantress, who was full of a kind of mature charm, smiled and waved her hand. "Don't be so polite. You are Yuetong's friend. From now on, you can call me 6th sister like her. Alas, in fact, with my age, Yuetong should call me 6th aunt. But calling me sister makes me look younger, don't you think? Teacher is young, so it's natural to call you 6th sister," Li Tianlan said seriously. Li Tianlan said seriously, his expression as serious as if he was giving a government report. The Enchantress beamed with delight, nodded repeatedly and said, "You are good at talking. Old Yi can't do that. He always says that I am the same age as him, and no matter how many times I beat him, he won't change. Not far away, Yi Fengqing's face turned red. He gritted his teeth and turned his head, pretending not to hear anything. Li Tianlan didn't know who old Yi was, so he didn't speak. He quietly waited for the students after the 5th place. In less than 10 seconds, another 2 figures appeared in his sight. They were a man and a woman, both of whom looked very young. The girl, who was a little more than 1.6 meters tall but had an unusually hot figure, walked in front with steady steps. She wore a silver mask that covered most of her face, so her appearance couldn't be seen. But her delicate red lips were tightly pursed, giving people an impression of inner firmness. The boy who appeared with her walked beside her. He was more than 2 meters tall and walked beside the girl, indescribably burly and domineering. The boy looked very rough, and his eyes were even fiercer. The only thing Li Tianlan could feel at first sight of him was strength. Enough strength. Gu Yunxia didn't wait for him to completely pass the finish line and said eagerly, "The 6th place, Gu Yulan. The 7th place, Su Yunzong. They are all from Kunlun City." Wang Yuetong suddenly appeared beside Li Tianlan and explained softly but seriously. Before Gu Yunxia came to the Sky Academy, she was one of the elders of Kunlun City. She is from the same branch as Gu Yulan and Su Yunzong. Li Tianlan nodded. He did have a kind of instinctive hostility to Kunlun City. He wanted to ask about the specific situation of the Empire's Special Warfare Center, but he also knew that it was not the right time. After Gu Yulan and Su Yunzong, Li Tianlan waited for nearly half an hour before the 8th place staggered to the finish line. In less than 20 minutes, more and more students finished the maneuver, and soon they were all ranked after the 20th place. After that, they waited for more than 10 minutes. But this time, Li Tianlan noticed. The freshmen who had completed the maneuver had lost their own credits. This meant that although they had become Zhuanghuayang students, their credits had become negative from now on. Then it was the elite organization that had just separated from Li Tianlan. With Fan Haoyu in the lead, the group walked towards the finish line in a grandiose manner. Li Tianlan counted 9 people in total. He was already in the 45th place. There were still 4 places left. Li Tianlan counted in silence. At the same time, he looked at the others without batting an eyelid. Among these people, some would become his friends or even brothers in the next 3 years or even longer. Some would become his enemies, such as Su Yunzong, who was still glaring at him coldly from time to time. The 47th, 48th, and 49th place soon appeared. For Li Tianlan, he was also an acquaintance. They were the 3 leaders of the Flames of War. Lu Dongyu and Tan Qinghua carried the seriously injured Lu Dongchao and barely managed to catch the last bus. Out of more than a dozen people in the Flames of War, only 3 people were left. The others had been completely annihilated. It could be seen that Fan Haoyu was extremely excited. He tried his best to hold back his laughter, but his fat face turned red, which looked extremely funny. While waiting for the last place to appear, the enchantress, who stood near Wang Yuetong, became obviously a little anxious. She frowned until the 50th place appeared and then slightly relaxed. A woman of about 25 or 26 years old appeared in everyone's sight. She was a very standard beauty. She had a plump and exquisite figure, and her facial features were just right. She was supposed to be a very charming woman, but at this time, her face was pale, and there were countless holes in her camouflage uniform, revealing a large area of snow-white skin. She walked laboriously, and with every step she took, her body swayed as if she would fall at any time. Li Tianlan noticed the weapons in her hands at the first moment. They were 2 extremely exquisite double sabers. Double sabers? Li Tianlan's eyes slightly narrowed, and he glanced at Wang Yuetong. Wang Yuetong's expression was also a little cold. "Do you have a grudge against each other?" Noticing Wang Yuetong's expression, the enchantress slightly raised her eyebrows and asked. "It was she who brought people to attack us just now. Didn't you see it, Sixth Sister?" Wang Yuetong took a deep breath. Her plump chest rose and fell slightly, and the scenery was beautiful. "I didn't notice. We have too many scenes to pay attention to. I may have been watching others' performance at that time. With your strength, facing these students, I'm not worried." The enchantress shook her head, looked at the woman who was swaying toward the finish line with the double sabers in her hands, and said softly, "Her name is Du Hanin, my student, and also a very poor woman. Yuetong, for my 6 sisters' sake, let it go, okay? Wang Yuetong wrinkled her nose and snorted. She didn't hurt me. It was me. Li Beitian smiled bitterly. Before the enchantress could speak, he said directly, forget it. Anyway, it's nothing. I was just too careless at that time. The enchantress nodded and said no more. When Du Hanin, who ranked 50th, passed the finish line, Zhuang Huayang also stood up in time. Very good. He coughed softly, looked at his watch, and said with a smile, the time taken for the top 50 to finish the maneuver is not much different from what I expected, and even slightly exceeded my expectations. Before the next maneuver, you will all be my students. I will treat you equally and do my best to help you improve your strength. He waved his hand casually, pointed to the school bus not far away, and continued, let's cut the crap. The top 50. Get on the number 1 bus. We won't wait for the others. Everyone moved at the same time, walking toward the number 1 bus. Li Tianlan was just about to turn around when a low roar full of suppressed hatred and malice suddenly sounded behind him. Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan stopped, turned around, and looked at Lu Dongchao, who was carried by Lu Dongyu and Tan Qinghua, walking toward him. Not only him, but Wang Yuetong, Li Beidian, Ning Chenqing, and even some teachers nearby, including Gu Yunxia and Zhuang Huayang, all turned around and watched the scene in front of them. Although no one saw the battle between Li Tianlan and Lu Xiuwei, it was the most exciting scene in the maneuver. Now Lu Xiuwei was killed. As Lu Xiuwei's nephew, what would Lu Dongchao say? What's the matter? Li Tianlan looked at Lu Dongchao, who stopped in front of him, and said in an indifferent tone, you destroyed my flames of war, ruined my future, humiliated my family, and killed my second uncle. Lu Dongchao laughed miserably as he spoke word by word, and his voice carried an irrepressible ruthlessness and desolation. I'll remember everything that happened today. Similarly, I'll make you remember everything that happened today. Believe me, you'll regret everything you've done today for the rest of your life. I swear. You are no match for me. Li Tianlan's tone became more and more indifferent. But I have my family. Like a madman, Lu Dongchao smiled brightly and said, you also have your family, don't you? Don't worry, it will be gone soon. I will use all my power to retaliate. Your family, your relatives, your friends, and you, no one will have an easy time. I can make your life worse than death. I can do it. Just wait and see. Suddenly, Li Tianlan's eyes became as deep as the sea. You said these? He looked at Lu Dongchao and asked slowly, aren't you afraid that I will kill you now? Kill me? Lu Dongchao laughed wildly and even his tears came out. The maneuver is not over yet. You want to kill me in front of so many people? Do you dare? Bastard. F*CKU, do you dare? Kill me, come and kill me. Come and kill me, I'm waiting. Li Tianlan's pupils abruptly turned blood red. Li Tianlan. Wang Yuetong suddenly screamed, if you dare to kill Senior Dongchao here, I will be the first to kill you. She screamed and suddenly made a move. Under the wildly changing expressions of Ning Chenqing and Li Beidian, she pushed Li Tianlan's back with her palm. Li Tianlan just wanted to fight back, but he found that the force Wang Yuetong pushed on his back was extremely gentle and not aggressive at all. Instead, he could use this force to get closer to Lu Dongchao. What a smart girl. What an enchanting woman. Li Tianlan's thoughts flashed violently. Under Wang Yuetong's palm, he deliberately spat out a mouthful of blood. His whole body seemed to lose control and fell toward Lu Dongchao. Before Lu Dongyu and Tan Qinghua could react to this strange scene, Li Tianlan's body had already smashed into Lu Dongchao. Coincidentally, his palm was pressed against Lu Dongchao's heart, and he shook it slightly. Lu Dongchao, who was laughing wildly, suddenly shook his body. He stared at Li Tianlan with his eyes wide open in horror. In his line of sight was a calm face filled with endless madness. He seemed to open his mouth and softly say, idiot! Lu Dongchao, whose heart was almost crushed, blacked out and died on the spot. Bastard! Gu Yunxia, who was a little further away, howled and suddenly jumped up. An amazing lightning gathered in her hand and stabbed Li Tianlan. At the same time, lightning flashed on Li Tianlan's body. Lightning bolts spread out in a frenzy. Almost in the blink of an eye, countless lightning had wrapped Li Tianlan's body. The lightning gathered in front of Li Tianlan and hit Gu Yunxia in the air. The grand and dense lightning hit Gu Yunxia's body in an instant. The dignified director of the teaching office of the Sky Academy did not even hold on for 2 seconds. She was hit by the lightning and flew out, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Most people were stunned and looked at everything in front of them in a daze. The enchantress looked solemn. She looked at the lightning in front of Li Tianlan and then at Gu Yunxia, who fell on the ground with disheveled hair, and lowered her eyelids. Headmaster Zhuang, who had personally protected Li Tianlan, walked through the crowd to Gu Yunxia and said coldly, "You have no rules at all, Director Gu. Do you think I can't control you after I die?" Headmaster, Wang Yuetong and Li Tianlan are acting. Don't tell me you can't see it. Gu Yunxia roared hysterically. Zhuang Huayang snorted, turned around, and glanced at Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan was lying on Lu Dongchao's body, completely unconscious. Wang Yuetong stood where she was with a blank expression. Flawless. What a smart girl. Zhuang Huayang praised her in his heart, and then shook his head subconsciously. Compared with Wang Yuetong's cleverness and quick-wittedness, her tacit understanding with Li Tianlan seemed to be the rarest. Chapter 29. When Li Tianlan woke up, it was already afternoon. He did not show up in his dormitory, but in the hospital of the Sky Academy. A single room, clean and elegant light blue walls, a soft bed, and dry and soft bedding. Fresh flowers and a plate of washed fruits were placed on the cabinet next to the bed. Right in front of him was a 55-inch LCD TV. Li Tianlan opened his eyes, feeling a little dazed and dreamy. His thoughts jumped from the gloomy and humid border to Huiting, and then to the entrance maneuver of the Sky Academy. It took him a full half a minute to come back to his senses. He moved his body and sat up straight against the headboard. Almost instinctively, he took out his mobile phone and turned it on. One of the more satisfactory things about the Sky Academy was that students were not prohibited from talking to the outside world on weekdays. Students were only required to turn off their mobile phones during some sensitive courses or maneuvers. After all, a considerable number of students here were different from Li Tianlan, Li Beitian, and others. They held official positions. For example, Ning Qianqing was the deputy battalion commander of the Thunderbolt Battalion of the Border Praetorian Corps of Jianghu State. He came to the Sky Academy for further study. Once the Thunderbolt Battalion took action and needed his help, he had to go back and report as soon as possible. There were many people like Ning Qianqing who came to the Sky Academy with official identities. Some of them had more sensitive positions than Ning Qianqing. No matter where they were, they had to make sure that others could find them as soon as possible. Therefore, mobile phones naturally became a necessity for every student in the Sky Academy. Li Tianlan subconsciously turned on his mobile phone. At first, he did not know what he was going to do, but when he saw the picture on the screen, he suddenly understood. On the screen, Li Tianlan's silly expression was so ugly that he could not bear to look at it. Qin Wei-bai, who was leaning against him, was smiling beautifully. Li Tianlan's eyes stayed on their interlocked fingers for a moment. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. There was joy, excitement, uneasiness, longing, and an almost illusory sense of loss and lack of confidence. He pursed his lips, opened the WeChat app on his mobile phone, and clicked on the dialog box with Qin Wei-bai. In the dialog box, Qin Wei-bai sent him another message. I found a very authentic Western restaurant in Bruxelles. The food is amazing. I really should come and try it with you. During the few days he was apart from Qin Wei-bai, Li Tianlan received messages from Qin Wei-bai every day. They were all trivial things about delicious food and beautiful scenery. Behind each message, there was a sigh that said they should visit together. Li Tianlan didn't know how to respond at all, so he never responded. The whole dialog box was filled with messages from Qin Wei-bai, one a day, neatly arranged. Li Tianlan hesitated for a moment. He typed on the keyboard awkwardly and replied, I've completed the entrance maneuver. A few seconds later, Qin Wei-bai's reply came directly, giving him the illusion that she was waiting for his reply at any time. This time, instead of typing, Qin Wei-bai replied with a voice message. Li Tianlan clicked on it. Qin Wei-bai's cold and somewhat ethereal voice came from the phone. Tianlan, are you hurt? I'm fine. Li Tianlan typed seriously. He was still not used to speaking with a voice message, especially when chatting with Qin Wei-bai. Only those who had experienced the sweetness of being careful could understand it. A little injury. Pay attention to rest. Don't risk your life before you recover. Qin Weibai's voice grew softer and softer. She paused for a moment, then sent another voice message. Come home when you have time. I left some information for you at home. Take a look. It should be useful to you. Li Tianlan was slightly stunned. Home? Go back to the border now? While he was still thinking, Qin Weibai said again, the key is with old you. Li Tianlan instantly understood that the home Qin Weibai mentioned belonged to Qin Weibai, the villa where he stayed for one night. Li Tianlan became confused again. He even forgot to reply to Qin Weibai's message. He had a very strange feeling in his heart. He wanted to control himself and not let his imagination run wild, but he couldn't. Indulge in wishful thinking? That was not entirely true. Li Tianlan could feel Qin Weibai's feelings. They were emanating from her every expression and movement. But he didn't know what these feelings meant and what they represented. He had his own guesses, but every time he thought about it, he felt that he was overthinking. Subconsciously, he didn't think that he was qualified to have anything with Qin Weibai now. How could a nobody who had nothing and had just started on the martial arts path make a woman like Qin Weibai fall in love with him? In terms of background, the Li family was extremely glorious 20 years ago. But now Li Tianlan's background could only bring more danger to him and the people around him. Li Tianlan didn't belittle himself, but he wouldn't be arrogant either. In general, perhaps his only redeeming quality was his potential. On the path of martial arts, he could be said to be a genius and a future expert of the invincible realm. But the other meaning of the words, future expert of the invincible realm, was that he was nothing now. In this way, no matter what, Qin Weibai didn't seem to have a reason to fall in love with him. Her contact information was given by his grandfather. So Li Tianlan had always thought that Qin Weibai's care for him came from her respect for his grandfather. Maybe it had something to do with his father back then. But he was never willing to think about it carefully. Time passed slowly. Li Tianlan didn't reply to Qin Weibai's message in the end. Instead, he put his phone aside and was lost in thought. Ning Qianqing pushed the door open and walked in with a pot of water in his hand. Seeing Li Tianlan in a daze, he was slightly startled and then smiled. You're awake? How do you feel? I'm fine. Li Tianlan smiled. How's Baidian? Still sleeping. He's right next door. I've been running around. The doctor said that you're seriously injured and have to rest for a while. Try not to fight if you can. If this kind of internal injury accumulates over the years, it will become a hidden injury. It is very likely to affect a person's final achievements. Ning Qianqing poured a glass of water and handed it to Li Tianlan. He sat beside him and continued, You were in a daze just now. What were you thinking about? Were you thinking about Lu Dongchao's death? Or Gu Yunxia? Don't worry, the headmaster has helped you deal with these things. At least in the Sky Academy, the headmaster's prestige is enough. Li Tianlan shook his head. Since he dared to do the thing about Lu Dongchao, he wouldn't worry too much afterward. He hesitated for a moment and tried to smile naturally. He asked, Qianqing, do you think a toad can eat swan meat without doing anything? Ning Qianqing was slightly stunned. He gave Li Tianlan a strange look and suddenly scolded with a smile. What kind of toad are you? A toad in the chi-controlling realm who can kill a toad at the peak of the fire-flaming realm with wind and thunder veins? If you're a toad, damn it, what are we? I didn't mean that. Li Tianlan shook his head with a wry smile. I meant relative. Compared to that swan, what I have is really nothing. You mean Wang Yuetong? Ning Qianqing hesitated for a moment. What you have now is really nothing compared to her. But Tianlan, listen to me. You and Wang Yuetong should leave it to fate. Don't force it. Swan meat is not so delicious. Even if you can eat it, it may not be a good thing for you. Li Tianlan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was talking about Qin Weibai, but it seemed reasonable for Ning Qianqing to talk about Wang Yuetong. But the problem was that he really didn't have any feelings for Wang Yuetong. But he was a little curious about the mysterious Wang family of Beihai that he had never heard of but everyone was very afraid of. He didn't correct Ning Qianqing at the moment and just followed his words. What is Wang Yuetong's background? Princess Yuetong, the demoness of the Wang family. Ning Qianqing said in a low voice, his expression serious and solemn. Li Tianlan found the words familiar. After thinking for a while, he suddenly remembered what Li Beitian said to him in the maze. It was exactly the same words. He felt a headache and said helplessly, "I mean, what is the background of the Wang family of Beihai?" "You don't know the Wang family of Beihai?" Ning Qianqing's expression was even weirder. As a member of the Special Warfare System, he didn't know the Wang family of Beihai. It was just like the people of Jianghu State didn't know who the president of Jianghu State was. "I don't know." Li Tianlan felt something was wrong. The Wang family of Beihai seemed to be extraordinarily famous. But he had never heard his grandfather talk about it before. He subconsciously grasped the quilt on his body, expressionless. If the Wang family of Beihai was really so famous, then it could only mean that his grandfather deliberately hid it. What did it mean? It meant that the Wang family of Beihai was probably related to his father's treason case, just like the current Kunlun city. In less than half a month after coming to Huiting, Li Tianlan finally saw the fog in front of him. And behind the layers of fog was the truth that had been hidden for many years. This was not bad news for him. At least it was much better than not seeing the fog at all. "It's hard for me to answer your question." Ning Qianqing thought about it and really couldn't figure out how to answer such a ridiculous question about the background of the Wang family of Beihai. "I'll put it simply. It's a super wealthy family with no shortcomings in all aspects. It's said that it once declined, but that was hundreds of years ago. Who knows if it's true? Jianghu State has been founded for nearly 500 years. The Wang family of Beihai has been glorious in Jianghu State for nearly 500 years. Their foundation is in Beihai province, but their influence can spread to the entire Jianghu State and even the entire dark world. So, do you understand?" "No." Li Tianlan shook his head. Ning Qianqing's words were too empty, so empty that it was hard to have a clear concept of the Wang family of Beihai. "What do you not understand?" A sweet and charming voice suddenly sounded at the door. Li Tianlan and Ning Qianqing were shocked at the same time. Almost at the same time, Li Tianlan had already reflexively grabbed the human emperor that had been put aside. Wang Yuetong, who pushed the door open and came in, was also a little surprised. Looking at Li Tianlan, who looked like he was facing a formidable enemy, she blinked her eyes and said, "Did I come at the wrong time?" "No." Li Tianlan also felt that his reaction was a little too much. He awkwardly put the weapon aside and asked, "Junior sister Yuetong, why are you here?" "I came to see you." Wang Yuetong smiled and squinted her eyes. The dimples at the corner of her mouth were very attractive. She walked into the ward and handed 2 small boxes to Li Tianlan. She said, "Senior brother, I brought you something that will be useful to you." "What is it?" Li Tianlan took it with a smile, only to find that the 2 palm-sized boxes were made of sandalwood. Not to mention the contents inside, the 2 small boxes were worth a lot of money. He glanced at Wang Yuetong in confusion and opened both boxes, only to find that there was a glassware in each box. Inside the glassware, 2 kinds of red liquid were slightly stirring, one light red, the other dark red. After you passed out, the headmaster announced that the credit system was officially launched. This bottle of light red is called Heal. I exchanged it with credits in the warehouse. The dark red one is called Life Prolonging. It's a genetic potion developed by our family. Wang Yuetong sat next to Li Tianlan and looked at him seriously. She said, "Senior brother Tianlan, I know you don't trust me enough, but I'm willing to try to trust you. I'm willing to share my good things with someone I can trust. If you take these 2 bottles of potion together, your injury will immediately stabilize and you will recover in a week. You can't refuse me. If you can't figure it out, just take it as my investment in your potential, although that's not my original intention." Heal potion. Li Tianlan knew this kind of thing. It was a special potion specially provided by Jianghu State for the Sky Academy and the Deep Sea Academy. It didn't improve combat effectiveness, but it could quickly stabilize and heal injuries. In the student code of conduct, it cost 60 credits to exchange for a bottle of heal potion, and the price was clearly stated. Only the strongest group of people in the academy would exchange for a bottle of this kind of advanced thing when they went out for field missions. Some people would even be reluctant to give it up. It was a life-saving thing, and no one would be so extravagant as to use it to heal injuries caused by maneuvers. As for life prolonging, just by looking at Ning Qianqing's wonderful face, he knew that the value of this medicine was absolutely not lower than that of heal. Li Tianlan held the two small boxes in his hands and was silent for a few seconds. Then he raised his head and looked at Wang Yuetong calmly. Thank you. He didn't refuse. Li Tianlan had always been very clear about what kind of attitude he should use to which person. This, thank you, was not only because of the two precious genetic potions, but also because of Wang Yuetong's marvelous assistance at the end of the maneuver. Without her help, Lu Dongchao would not have a good end even if he died. Wang Yuetong's pretty face blushed. She only felt that his calm eyes were unprecedentedly clear and gentle. She casually turned her head and saw the human emperor beside Li Tianlan. Her eyes slightly brightened, and she grabbed the human emperor. As soon as the human emperor was in her hand, Wang Yuetong's hand suddenly sank. She exerted a little force and grabbed the human emperor again. She smiled and said, I'm afraid it weighs more than 50 kilograms, about the same weight as the heavy sword my brother used. Senior brother Tianlan, can this weapon change shape? What's its name? It has several different forms. Li Tianlan nodded. It's called Human Emperor. Puff. Beside Wang Yuetong, Ning Qianqing had just taken a sip of water. When he heard the word Human Emperor, he directly spat out all the water, wetting a large area of Li Tianlan's hospital bed. Chapter 30. Qin Ku once said that about 15 years ago, there was a superpower called Night Spirit in the Dark World that traveled east to Wuxia for a top-secret military blueprint. One of the two dominators of Night Spirit, Heaven Heart, an invincible realm expert, took action in person. Finally, he was shot dead by a patriarch of a top wealthy family in Jianghu state from 20,000 meters away. That gun was called the Human Emperor. It was the first of the 12 murderous weapons in the Dark World. Now, listening to Wang Yuetong, Li Tianlan finally knew that the legendary Human Emperor was a murderous weapon belonging to the Wang family of Beihai. This sentence was much clearer than the large number of concepts that Ning Qianqing had just instilled in him. Invincible realm experts were the peak combat capability in the Dark World today. The birth and death of an invincible realm expert in any country could affect the pattern of the entire Dark World. Li Tianlan was not sure if there were any invincible realm experts in the Wang family of Beihai. But the blow of the Human Emperor 15 years ago was enough to show that they at least had the power and means to kill an invincible realm expert. Li Tianlan naturally knew the status of such a wealthy family in Jianghu state and in the Dark World. It's just a coincidence. My gun is a cold weapon. It can't be compared with the famous gun in your family. Li Tianlan leaned against the headboard and said with a smile, playing with the two sandalwood boxes in his hands. Senior brother, take the medicine first. It has been activated. If you don't take it in a few hours, it won't work. Wang Yuetong put the Human Emperor back in its original place and sat in front of Li Tianlan with a smile. You take it first. I have something to tell you. You've taken it? Li Tianlan felt it was a pity. He didn't have the support of a wealthy family like the Wang family of Beihai. He had planned to keep one of the two bottles of medicine. Maybe it could save his life someday. Hearing that it would be useless if he didn't take it in a few hours, he suddenly felt a headache. Take it. These two medicines complement each other. If you like, I have some life-prolonging medicine. I'll give it to you another day. There's no healing medicine. I don't have enough credits. Wang Yuetong smiled softly. It was hard for her to define her feelings for Li Tianlan. But it was certainly not love. But it was undeniable that in Wang Yuetong's eyes, Li Tianlan was indeed special and even mysterious. She couldn't help but want to get closer to him. Even if nothing happened in the end, with Li Tianlan's potential, the Wang family of Beihai wouldn't care about this little investment. It was always good to have a good relationship. Li Tianlan hesitated for a moment, nodded, and drank the liquid in the two containers together. Ning Qianqing, who was an old acquaintance of Wang Yuetong but did not seem to be close to her, finally couldn't help coughing and said awkwardly, Well, Yuetong, do you have a lot of life-prolonging potions? Ning Cheng, I have medicine. Prolonging medicine. Later, life-prolonging it. He was not an ignorant bumpkin like Li Tianlan. The life-prolonging medicine was far more precious than the healing medicine. It did have the effect of quickly stabilizing injuries. But the main function of life-prolonging medicine was to balance all aspects of the user's physical state. Simply put, it could coordinate the strength, speed, and explosive force of the warrior's body to make the attack more effective. At the same time, it could greatly reduce the burden on the user's body. The effect could last for up to 6 months. Even in the Wang family of Beihai, it was a very advanced thing. Life-prolonging medicine was a special product of the Wang family of Beihai. It was the 6th generation since it was first developed. So far, it was in high demand on the black market. The Wang family of Beihai only traded 100 or 200 bottles with the Jianghu state government every year. It was no exaggeration to say that except for young core members of the Wang family of Beihai like Wang Yuetong, almost all experts below the thunder-shocking realm in the entire Jianghu state were not qualified to use life-prolonging medicine. Now, Wang Yuetong gave such a high-end thing to Li Tianlan as an ordinary healing medicine. While Ning Qianqing lamented that it was a waste of God's gift, he also had the illusion that Wang Yuetong had brought a lot of life-prolonging medicine to the Sky Academy. So he simply put down his pride and tentatively made this request. If Wang Yuetong was willing to trade, even if it was just 3 or 5 bottles, as long as she brought it back to the border Praetorian Corps, it would make the experts in the Corps safer when hunting abroad. Wang Yuetong glanced at Ning Qianqing with a faint smile on her lips. Ning Qianqing's face was a little red, but he looked at Wang Yuetong with undisguised expectation and desire. Sure, I can make the decision if it's within 20 bottles of life-prolonging medicine. She looked at Ning Qianqing's surprised expression and gently raised her red lips. She said slowly, I want 10 standard mad shots. If your marshal agrees, I'm willing to give you 20 bottles of life-prolonging medicine. The corner of Ning Qianqing's mouth twitched and he was speechless for a moment. Just as life-prolonging medicine was the private property of the Wang family of Beihai, mad shot was also the private property of their marshal, or rather, the private property of the entire Dongqing clan. The Dongqing clan was also a top wealthy family in the Jianghu state. It was known as a military giant and had a supreme status in the Zhongyuan province. Mad shot was the new research result of the Dongqing clan in recent years. It could also be said to be the proudest work of the Dongqing clan. Mad shot was not a medicine, but a gun. To be exact, it was an energy gun that could pose a great threat to an expert in the fire-flaming realm and a certain threat to an expert in the thunder-shocking realm. Mad shot had a fast shooting speed and a strong energy storage capacity. Even an expert in the fire-flaming realm would be seriously injured after taking one shot. Although such a powerful energy gun was far inferior to the 12 murderous weapons in the Dark World, it was still a target coveted by all the major forces. Because mad shot could be mass-produced. Although each mad shot was expensive, as long as it could be mass-produced, money was nothing. At present, all the mad shots produced by the Dongqing clan had been provided to the Border Control Corps. In 3 years, there were about 60 mad shots in the hands of the real sharpshooters of the Border Control Corps, and they were secretly protected by experts. If 60 mad shots were fired at the same time, any expert under the invincible realm would feel numb. Now Wang Yuetong wanted to exchange 20 bottles of life-prolonging medicine for 10 mad shots. She was asking for too much. That's impossible. Ning Qianqing replied without hesitation. Not to mention whether such a deal was worth it. Even if it was worth it, the price of 10 mad shots was already beyond his control. See, mad shot is a treasure in your eyes, and life-prolonging is also a treasure in our eyes. There's nothing to talk about. Wang Yuetong chuckled and turned to look at Li Tianlan. Senior brother Tianlan, how do you feel? Hut. Li Tianlan said, but very comfortable. This was the first time in his life that he had taken such a high-tech genetic potion. In less than a minute after taking the potion, he felt a warm feeling, and it seemed that the pain in his body was quickly fading. This is a normal reaction. Senior brother. If there are no accidents, you can be discharged tomorrow. Your injury should be healed before the class officially starts. Let's go out and play tomorrow, okay? It's time to go out. Before Li Tianlan could speak, an old voice suddenly sounded from the door. The headmaster of the Sky Academy, Zhuang Huayang, stood at the door of the ward. He squinted and smiled gently. I saw that you didn't close the door, so I came in directly. Do you mind? Hello, headmaster. Li Tianlan and the other two straightened up at the same time and said in unison. Okay. Zhuang Huayang nodded and walked in slowly. From this posture, no one could associate him with the absolute expert who defeated Xianxia with one move a few hours ago. He carefully looked at Li Tianlan's face, and his eyes stopped on the 2 sandalwood boxes next to Li Tianlan. He smiled and said, It seems that there is no problem. This girl gave you a lot of private goods from the Wang family of Beihai? It's just a bottle of life-prolonging. Headmaster, your words are too harsh. Wang Yuetong curled her lips discontentedly and spoke bluntly. Headmaster, what's the matter? Sitting at the head of the bed, Li Tianlan asked straightforwardly without beating around the bush. From Zhuang Huayang's slightly flickering eyes, he could be sure that Zhuang Huayang's visit this time was definitely not as simple as a headmaster visiting an injured student. There are some things I want to talk to you alone. Zhuang Huayang smiled casually. Wang Yuetong and Ning Qianqing were not fools. Naturally, they understood that the headmaster was driving them away. They immediately got up and said goodbye. However, when Wang Yuetong left, she looked back several times. Obviously, she was very interested in the conversation between the two. This girl is smart, but she's a little too curious. Zhuang Huayang looked at Wang Yuetong, who was leaving, and said softly with a smile. Li Tianlan did not comment. He just looked at Zhuang Huayang's eyes attentively and waited for him to get to the point. But Zhuang Huayang was silent. He walked slowly to the window and looked at the endless sea outside, as if he was thinking about something. Li Tianlan was not in a hurry. Living at the border and in the maze in the desert of Beijiang had given him a calmness and patience far beyond his age. If Zhuang Huayang insisted on not talking, he could accompany the old headmaster for a day and a night. Tianlan, are you willing to be a vassal of a family or a force? To Li Tianlan's surprise, Zhuang Huayang did not talk about the entrance maneuver and Xianxia. Instead, he talked about a topic that was beyond the scope of a school leader and a student's heart-to-heart talk. Li Tianlan lowered his eyelids slightly and said indifferently, I don't understand what you mean, headmaster. What I mean is very simple. With your potential, once you grow up, it will be absolutely easy for you to become a core figure of a super force. You may get a very high status and a very bright life. You can even achieve some things that you can't do on your own. But you will also lose yourself. You will not have a standpoint. The standpoint of that big force is your standpoint. You will not care about what you want, but how to get the most benefits for that force. Your hatred, your resentment, your love, all have to be weighed in the overall situation. You can't be happy with gratitude or hatred. You can only become a bright and glorious pawn in the hands of others, but without freedom and standpoint. Are you willing to live such a life? Zhuang Huayang turned around and looked at Li Tianlan with bright eyes. His expression was still gentle, but the content of his words was full of a sense of oppression. This time, Li Tianlan was silent for a full 5 minutes before he calmly said, My grandfather once told me that I would rather be a farmer than a vassal. Penetrating insight. Zhuang Huayang nodded with a smile. He thought for a while and continued, If you have a friend who has a very good relationship with you, and the two of you build a very large force together, and it has been passed on smoothly for hundreds of years or even longer, generation after generation of people run this force, but the highest authority has always been in the hands of you and your friend's descendants. Can you understand what I'm saying? I can understand. Li Tianlan's tone was calm, but his heart was turbulent. By now, he could already be sure that Zhuang Huayang did not come to him for a chat at all. Perhaps Zhuang Huayang already knew his identity, and today, it was obvious that he wanted to tell him something. It's good that you can understand. Zhuang Huayang took out a cigarette and lit it. He took a deep breath and continued, For hundreds of years, you and your friend's descendants have been in control of the supreme power of this force. But suddenly one day, something happened to your friend's descendants, and a martial arts force with great influence collapsed just like that. But your descendant also encountered some problems, so he couldn't help you. The final result is clear. Your friend's descendant completely fell into desolation, but your descendant succeeded in controlling the supreme power of this superpower alone. Tianlan, if it were you, would you feel guilty? Maybe. Li Tianlan lowered his head and drank water, hiding all his expressions. His tone was gentle, but there was a trace of indifference. But such guilt can't affect anything at all. Yes, it won't affect anything at all. Zhuang Huayang nodded and echoed meaningfully. He continued, Maybe we can put it more simply. We don't need to talk about descendants. Let's talk about you. If you control the supreme power of this big force, and one day, you suddenly find that your once closest and most reliable comrade, but suddenly desolate, has a tendency to rise again, then what will you do? Li Tianlan was silent. Will you do your best to help him restore his former status and share the power in his hands with you? Zhuang Huayang's eyes became sharper and sharper, and the questions he asked became more and more difficult to answer. If it's my friend, I will. Li Tianlan opened his mouth slowly. He had always been calm, but this time his tone became depressed and bitter. But it's your ancestor's friend. This friendship has lasted for hundreds of years and has been passed down from generation to generation. How much of it can be left in your generation? Is it the same as before, or is it simply a need for cooperation? Now the other family has fallen, and you alone control the situation. Under such circumstances, in the face of the rise of another family, what will you choose? Zhuang Huayang asked in an indifferent and even a little leisurely. But the answer behind this question was cold and chilling. Li Tianlan remained silent. He had nothing to say. I'll answer it for you. Zhuang Huayang narrowed his eyes and said with a slightly cold smile. If it were me, I would never want to see the rise of another family, because helping them is tantamount to helping another person share his own power. If I don't help them, if they really become powerful, it is very likely to lead to the division of the force I control now. So not only will I not help them, but I will also do everything possible to stop their development. If I'm ruthless, I will even use my current power to completely crush them and make them disappear completely. Li Tianlan's hand shook slightly, and in his hand, more than half a cup of water suddenly shook a little. So if this once desolate force wants to stand in its former position again, then not to mention their enemies, even their best partners will become their most direct opponents, even their mortal enemies. Zhuang Huayang said coldly. Li Tianlan took a deep breath and poured all the water in the cup down. Then he said, "It's a wonderful story." "Just a story? Tianlan? What if it's true?" Zhuang Huayang looked at Li Tianlan and asked with mocking eyes. Li Tianlan was also looking at Zhuang Huayang, and his eyes were absolutely quiet like stagnant water. How many invincible realm experts are there in Jianghu state now? Zhuang Huayang looked at Li Tianlan's eyes and asked. Li Tianlan's eyes flickered slightly, and he asked in reply, "Not 4? Of course not." Zhuang Huayang laughed out loud and said, "To be exact, there should be 5 invincible realm experts in Jianghu state now, but one has been forgotten by most people." Chapter 31. Here it came. Finally it came. From the beginning of the entrance maneuver, Li Tianlan had guessed that Zhuang Huayang knew his identity. Now that he heard Zhuang Huayang directly call out his grandfather's name, he basically had a definite answer in his heart. His heart was beating fiercely, but his expression did not change at all. He was like a rock, cold and indifferent. "I'd like to hear the details." He raised his head and calmly looked into Zhuang Huayang's eyes. Zhuang Huayang subconsciously narrowed his eyes and looked at Li Tianlan seriously for a while. Then he suddenly said, "Tianlan, do you know that your current performance may be appreciated, but it's hard for people to like you? You're too quiet, so quiet that no one can see through you. If you already have a foundation, your performance would be good. But now you're just a young man with nothing. A young man that even an old man like me thinks is deep and even unfathomable is a bit too much. You should show your vigor and vitality, at least to let people know what you're thinking, even if what they see is not what you really want to show." Li Tianlan's mouth moved. He sat on the bed and bowed slightly. He said calmly, "Thank you for your advice, headmaster." Zhuang Huayang could not tell whether Li Tianlan had listened to him or not. This young man, he really had a feeling that he could not grasp. Shaking his head, he pulled a chair to sit on the edge of the bed and took out a cigarette again. "Want one?" Li Tianlan nodded and took the cigarette. He knew how to smoke, but he only smoked cheap tobacco at the border, so he was not addicted to it. "This is a luxury in your country, isn't it?" Zhuang Huayang shook the cigarette in his hand and asked with a smile. But in his eyes, Li Tianlan seemed not to have heard it. His expression did not change at all, and he just smoked quietly. The old headmaster laughed at himself. Regardless of whether Li Tianlan listened or not, he went straight to the point. The Li family represented by Li Honghe was not called the Li family before. Different from the Wang family of Beihai, they are a martial arts force with a long history, called Zhuanyuantai of Kunlun. 20 years ago, Zhuanyuantai was truly glorious. Over the past 500 years, from Li Kuangtu's generation, Zhuanyuantai produced 9 generations of invincible realm experts without interruption. Only the Wang family of Beihai could match this kind of glory. And because Zhuanyuantai has been controlled by the Li family in recent generations, the Li family is also known as the war god family of Jianghu state. To put it simply, in the past few hundred years, every invincible realm expert from Zhuanyuantai of Kunlun has been the supreme leader of the special warfare system of Jianghu State. Their status is similar to that of the current Kunlun city, but their prestige is higher than that of Kunlun city. What do you think? Awesome, right? Li Tianlan was no longer calm this time. The muscles on his face twitched visibly, and he took a deep drag on the cigarette. 20 years ago the Southeast Group, which was formed by the Wang family of Beihai and Zhuanyuantai of Kunlun, had an overwhelming influence in Jianghu State. Southeast Group. Li Tianlan raised his eyebrows in surprise. What is it? You can understand it as a force composed of various forces. Zhuang Huayang explained patiently. These forces include all the forces in politics, economy, military system, special warfare system, academic field, public opinion, and so on. In a word, the Southeast Group is a superforce composed of all the powerful families in the southeast of Jianghu State. Wuxia Province, Jiangxia Province, Minnan Province, Jianghu Province, Dongshan Province, Jiangnan Province, and Beihai Province, as well as some powerful departments in the capital Yuzhou, can all be regarded as the sphere of influence of the Southeast Group. Zhuang Huayang took a deep drag on the cigarette. Obviously, he was not calm. Including the place we are in now. The entire Huiting 5 years ago was also the backyard of the Southeast Group. Li Tianlan was speechless for a long time. Even he could not help but feel a little numb when he heard this. He could not imagine the power of this force. But as soon as he heard the names of the 7 provinces, he could feel what kind of turbulence this force would set off in Jianghu State. With the decline of Zhuanyuantai of Kunlun or the Li family, this force had now been completely dominated by the Wang family of Beihai. It was the first time that Li Tianlan knew that his family had been so glorious when he stood side by side with the Wang family of Beihai. But when he heard the news at this time, he was not honored, only bitter. Very strong. Li Tianlan opened his mouth and his voice was very dry. It's more than very strong. 20 years ago, the Southeast Group was in power. If it weren't for that case of treason, the Southeast Group would be even more horrible now. How could there be room for others to live? Zhuang Huayang smoked and said calmly. Looking at Li Tianlan, who was in deep thought, he suddenly asked, "What do you think of your father's treason case?" This sentence was tantamount to directly revealing Li Tianlan's identity. There was no if, and no story. In other words, Zhuang Huayang's words directly involved Li Tianlan in this story. You said it was my father. From my standpoint, what opinion can I have? Will I really think that he committed treason like others? Li Tianlan didn't look surprised at all. He just stared at Zhuang Huayang coldly and asked. Zhuang Huayang smiled slightly and said in a calm tone, I understand that you have resentment, but don't vent it on me. In fact, my old leader and I have been insisting on investigating the truth of that treason case all these years. If it weren't for our insistence, the case would have been completely closed now. What level was Zhuang Huayang's old leader? Li Tianlan still couldn't imagine, but there was no doubt that this was the topic of his talk today. Li Tianlan looked at Zhuang Huayang thoughtfully, narrowed his eyes, and said softly, So what's the background of the headmaster? Or, which group does he come from? Shall we continue to tell the story? Zhuang Huayang didn't answer directly, but looked at Li Tianlan and said with a smile. Li Tianlan nodded and said, Okay. It may be difficult for you to understand how powerful the Southeast Group was 20 years ago. Judging from the situation of Jianghu State, whichever group is in power will become extremely powerful during the period of the group's rule. But now, it has been nearly 20 years since the Southeast Group was in power, but it is still one of the most powerful groups in Jianghu State. Even if it has left the highest position, even if it has been affected by the treason case, it hasn't been completely defeated. This shows their tenacity and the great talent of the patriarch of the Wang family of Beihai. Zhuang Huayang said slowly, but overall, the strength of the Southeast Group has been weakened in recent years, but now it has completely stabilized. More than 10 years ago, the big boss of the Southeast Group retired, and Jianghu State was under the rule of the Prince Group. Judging from the situation at that time, if the Wang family of Beihai and Zhuanyuantai of Kunlun were at their peak, even if the Prince Group came to power, it couldn't escape the fate of being a puppet. Fortunately, Zhuanyuantai was already a thing of the past at that time. A few years passed, and the storm caused by the treason case also came to an end. Jianghu State has Kunlun City. After the Prince Group came to power, it maintained a good relationship with Kunlun City. Today, The Prince Group has stabilized its advantages and has become a behemoth that can stand at the same height as the Southeast Group. So, Li Tianlan already had a guess in his heart, but he still couldn't help asking. That's why the next topic is sensitive. Even to you I can't tell you. Whatever you think is the situation, it's probably the situation, Zhuang Huayang said with a smile. His words were extremely obvious. Unless Li Tianlan was a fool, he would definitely understand what he meant. Li Tianlan didn't say anything. Zhuang Huayang's words were extremely obvious, especially the word puppet, which was an obvious hint. Many years ago, the powerful Southeast Group and the rising Prince Group must have had a lot of conflicts. Especially for the Prince Group, being a puppet was absolutely not something they wanted to see. Under such circumstances, it was completely reasonable for the Prince Group to counterattack in advance in the later period of the Southeast Group's rule. And judging from the result, the Prince Group undoubtedly put the breakthrough point of the counterattack on the original's One Yuan Tai of Kunlun. Everything Zhuang Huayang said was almost equivalent to telling him clearly that his father's treason case was probably the counterattack made by the Prince Group because it was unwilling to be a puppet, and now Kunlun City played the role of an accomplice. Li Tianlan closed his eyes and suddenly felt a little tired. If all this was true, then if he wanted to investigate the treason case and let the Li family reappear in the power circle of Jianghu State, he had to face not only the Wang family of Beihai, but also the Prince Group in Kunlun City. He took a deep breath, as if there were 3 invisible mountains pressing on him, making it difficult for him to breathe. If that's the case, why didn't they investigate it? Li Tianlan was silent for a long time before he asked again. If his father's treason case was framed by the Prince Group in Kunlun City, then they should have been able to find out something when there were still a lot of clues. Until now, he was afraid that many clues had been cut off. Who will investigate it? Zhuang Huayang said meaningfully. Tianlan, don't you know why your grandfather hasn't left the border so far? My old leader has invited your grandfather in person more than once. Li Tianlan immediately thought of Yi Dongsheng, who had gone to the border to invite his grandfather back to Yuzhou not long ago. But obviously, Yi Dongsheng and Zhuang Huayang were not on the same side, because Li Honghe had made it clear that the reason why Yi Dongsheng was willing to reverse the verdict for his son and invite him back to the capital was that Yi Dongsheng didn't know he had a grandson. But now, Zhuang Huayang obviously didn't mind his existence. Li Tianlan thought for a while and smiled bitterly again. Why didn't his grandfather leave the border? There was no doubt that if they left, not only Kunlun City and the Prince Group would target them crazily, but even the Wang family of Beihai would never welcome their return. The old leader behind Zhuang Huayang definitely belonged to another group. He might not be so pure when he invited people. Just as Zhuang Huayang couldn't take the initiative to tell him these things when he saw them living a difficult life, he said these things today and invited people with his old leader with the purpose of using the Li family. Such a situation was indeed more dangerous for the Li family than staying at the border. In this situation, the Wang family of Beihai, the Prince Group, and Kunlun City were all standing opposite the Li family. The Li family had declined. None of the 3 forces would be interested in investigating the details of the treason case because they all got what they wanted. Li Tianlan quickly calmed down. He was different from his grandfather. In Huiting he was alone. If he could get what he wanted, he didn't mind being used. In the face of Zhuang Huayang's hint, he narrowed his eyes and said straightforwardly, "What do you need me to do?" "Join us." Zhuang Huayang was straightforward and said with a smile, "I don't even know who you are. How can I join you?" Li Tianlan laughed softly, looking calm and composed. "Let me briefly introduce the current situation of Jianghu State to you." Zhuang Huayang stood up and handed Li Tianlan another cigarette. There are 6 groups in Jianghu State now. The Southeast Group, the Prince Group, and the Special Warfare Group represented by Kunlun City. In addition, there is the giant group of Jianghu State represented by the Dongqing clan, the North Group based in Northern City, and the last one is us. Because many of us have the background of Jianghu State College, we are jokingly called the academics and are the current ruling group. The Southeast Group, the Prince Group, the Special Warfare Group, the Giant Group, the North Group, and the academics. Li Tianlan quickly sorted out his thoughts and said calmly, "Why did you choose me?" "Our initial choice was your grandfather." Zhuang Huayang smiled helplessly and said, "Even now, he is our best choice. But obviously, he doesn't have much interest in it. So we chose you. You have the wind and thunder veins. As long as you don't slack off, you can steadily enter the invincible realm when you grow up. This potential is worth our investment. At present, we have little say in the special warfare system, very little. I'm the only expert in the academics who can control the situation, but my state is also declining, and I can't hold on for long. As for the experts of the younger generation, Jianghu is okay, but she probably can't enter the invincible realm. So, we chose you in the hope that you can help us get back the say in the special warfare system after entering the invincible realm. Li Tianlan took a big drag on the cigarette. When the cigarette was about to burn out, he looked up at Zhuang Huayang seriously and said, "Is this the idea of the whole academics?" "I talked to the chief on the phone," Zhuang Huayang said in a calm tone. The academics was now the ruling group of Jianghu state. It was self-evident who the chief Zhuang Huayang was talking about was. "How much time do I have?" Li Tianlan asked again. This question was very critical for him. 10 years. Zhuang Huayang said in a dignified tone. The chief will probably retire in one term. Within 10 years, the strength of the academics will be at its strongest. After this period, the situation will be a little difficult, which means that our plan will fail. A 10-year plan. Li Tianlan exhaled a mouthful of smoke, got out of bed, and came to the window. In his sight, the endless sea was whistling up and down, and the tide rose and fell, never stopping. Li Tianlan clenched his fist and said without looking back, "Then what can I get?" "Freedom. Freedom. Freedom." Zhuang Huayang said seriously, "You will not be our vassal. Within 10 years, if you can enter the invincible realm, you will be the most trustworthy ally of the academics. Within 10 years, as long as your performance satisfies us, our help to you will certainly satisfy you. This condition is really unbelievably loose." Li Tianlan looked at the sea and laughed. Zhuang Huayang wanted to say something but stopped on second thought, and finally said, "There are some other reasons, but I can't say it now. You will know sooner or later." "It seems that I have no reason to refuse." Li Tianlan turned around and looked at Zhuang Huayang. "If that's the case." Zhuang Huayang smiled and reached out his hand. "Comrade Li Tianlan, we will be on the same side from now on." "Comrade, not classmate." Li Tianlan narrowed his eyes slightly, reached out his hand, and held it tightly with Zhuang Huayang. "Tell me about a more coincidental thing." Zhuang Huayang suddenly laughed and said, "In the past 2 decades, every 5 years, there will be a major event in Jianghu state. 20 years ago, your father committed treason, and the old patriarch of the Wang family of Beihai died of illness. 15 years ago, the patriarch of the Wang family of Beihai killed Tianling, an invincible realm expert of Tianling, with the murderous weapon human emperor. 10 years ago, Situ Tsungyue, one of the 4 gods of Jianghu state, killed Lu Tianqing, an invincible realm expert of Jianghu state. 5 years ago, Gu Qianchuan, the first elder of Kunlun City, successfully entered the invincible realm, and Huading was also snatched from the Wang family of Beihai by the prince group. Now, another 5 years is about to pass. Who knows what will happen? We can forget about these 5 years, but I hope that in the next 10 years, every major event we hear will be related to you." He let go of Li Tianlan's hand, patted him on the shoulder, and went straight to the door. "Have a good rest, I'm leaving." Li Tianlan looked at Zhuang Huayang's back. When Zhuang Huayang was about to go out, he suddenly said, "Who is the patriarch of this generation of the Wang family of Beihai?" Zhuang Huayang's figure paused slightly and said calmly, "It's Wang Yuetong's father, the Lord of Human Emperor, Wang Tianzong." Chapter 32. After Zhuang Huayang left, Li Tianlan faced the sea alone and stood in front of the window for a long time, as if he had become a statue. For the first time since he left the border, he knew his future situation. The southeast group led by the Wang family of Beihai. The prince group, which had just given up its highest power. In Kunlun City, the power center of the special warfare group. One day in the future, these super forces in the central province that could turn clouds and rain with a flip of their hands would become his enemies. The news couldn't be any worse. But for Li Tianlan, who knew nothing, what Zhuang Huayang said was at least a gain. At least he knew the starting point for investigating his father's treason case when he had the capital one day. The biggest gain was naturally Zhuang Huayang's invitation. In the current situation, he could not refuse the olive branch extended by the academics. Otherwise, Zhuang Huayang didn't need to do anything. He just needed to reveal his identity, and he would die without a burial place. Temporarily joining the academics and becoming their ally in the future was Li Tianlan's only choice at present, and it was also a choice that would help him a lot. However, how long this kind of cooperation could last depended on his own growth and the specific attitude of the academics. Variables could happen at any time. After all, in any case, the academics was now the ruling group of Jianghu state, and there were many people who wanted to rely on it. Zhuang Huayang said it was pitiful, but Li Tianlan would not believe that the other party would put all the chips of the 10-year plan on him unless he was a fool. That was to say, before he could surpass other competitors and let the academics put all the chips on him, even if he could get the help of the academics, it would not be too much. After all, Zhuang Huayang just said that the help of the academics would satisfy him. Satisfaction and surprise were two completely different concepts. However, Li Tianlan did not bother to care about this. Compared with the resources that the academics was about to pour into him, Zhuang Huayang's willingness to temporarily keep the secret about his identity for him was the greatest help to him. Thinking of the Sky Academy, Li Tianlan sobered up in an instant. His statue-like body finally moved, and he breathed a long sigh of relief. Then he laughed at himself. For him, these problems really needed to be considered. If his strength was really at the peak, then the invincibility of the #1 expert in Jianghu state, the terror of the human emperor, the insidiousness of the prince group, and the strength of Kunlun city would be very close to him. But now, he was just a freshman of the Sky Academy who had just entered the Qi-controlling realm. The most important thing was to take care of what was in front of him. At present, his most important task was to get as many credits as possible from the Sky Academy. In the next 3 years, he must keep his credit advantage and expand it. Then there was the annual maneuver of the 2 academies. The first maneuver of this year would begin in March next year. It was said to be a very cruel scene. In every maneuver, the elites of the 2 academies would bleed on the spot. But because such maneuvers were extremely rich in credits, Li Tianlan had to participate in such maneuvers if he wanted to keep ahead in credits. There was still about a year to go. Li Tianlan thought silently. In a year, under normal circumstances, he could probably recover to the level of the ice-condensing realm and would not be too far from the fire-flaming realm. This progress might not satisfy the academics, but combined with his real combat capability, it should not be difficult to get a good ranking in the maneuver. This was the guarantee for the academics to continue to bet on him. At present, Li Tianlan's goal was very clear. That was to get a good ranking in the maneuver of the 2 academies a year later and then earn as many credits as possible. In the next 3 years, as long as he could restore his peak strength, the academics would have no second choice except for him. Tianlan, what are you thinking about? You didn't even hear me knocking on the door. A voice suddenly sounded from behind Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan turned around abruptly. Li Baitian and Ning Qianqing appeared at the door of the ward together and looked at him at the same time. I'm thinking. Li Tianlan hesitated a little. How can I get a good ranking in the maneuver of the 2 academies next year? It's better to get the first place, or at least the top 3. If he could get the top 3 in the maneuver of the 2 academies, his 2 roommates would definitely be people he could not avoid. The top 10 experts of the younger generation were ranked every year. Although the rankings were exaggerated, as long as they were on the list, no matter how exaggerated they were, it could still show how terrifying their potential was. Li Baitian and Ning Qianqing ranked 4th and 5th respectively. To put it bluntly, they could all be regarded as Li Tianlan's competitors. However, there were many ways to compete. Some were benign, while others were irreconcilable. Li Tianlan admired these 2 roommates from the bottom of his heart and did not want to have a bad relationship with them. Ning Qianqing and Li Baitian were stunned at the same time. What's there to think about? Improving my strength is the most important thing. Tianlan, when the time comes, as long as you have the strength, just close your eyes and rush forward. I'll do my best to clear the obstacles for you. If we meet, I'll go easy on you. Li Baitian said with a smile. Me too. I'm not strong enough to fight for the top 5. Tianlan, if you have the strength, I won't stand in your way. Ning Qianqing's attitude was equally clear. As for whether he really thought so, no one knew. You. Li Tianlan narrowed his eyes and looked at the 2 suspiciously. He was not stupid. If he was a little confused when the 3 of them met for the first time, then he had to be suspicious of some clues in the maneuver. The kindness of these 2 people towards him seemed to be a little too much. What? I don't want to make it too clear. Damn it, you have to force me. Li Baitian rolled his eyes and said grumpily, I mean the same thing as Qianqing. I have no confidence in making it to the top 3. We are brothers in the same dormitory. If you have enough strength, who would want to stand in your way? The great void sword of Mount Shu is indeed strong, but in terms of martial arts, it is a real unique skill in the late stage. At least before the thunder-shocking realm, I'm definitely no match for Dongqing Rushi, the genius disciple of Jade Pool. As for Jianghu, who is ranked higher than Dongqing Rushi, I'm even weaker. But if I enter the thunder-shocking realm, then it'll be different. Li Tianlan was no longer a noob who knew nothing when he first entered the world. At least he had some understanding of the top 10 young experts. Yu Qingyan once said that Dongqing Rushi was a genius who ranked ahead of Li Beitian among the top 10 young experts. She ranked 3rd. At the age of 19, she was already an expert of the fire-flaming realm. Jiang Shangyu ranked 2nd. It was said that both of them were geniuses with exquisite bones and their learning abilities were unparalleled in the world. But Li Tianlan didn't take it to heart. Wind and thunder veins, heavenly king heart, and exquisite bones were definitely the best congenital conditions for people who practiced martial arts. But congenital conditions were not omnipotent. At least Li Tianlan knew that the #1 expert in Hang State many years ago was a peerless genius who possessed both the heavenly king heart and the exquisite bone. But after he successfully stepped into the invincible realm, he was also killed by his grandfather. The red sandalwood plaque with the words, Li family, on it in the border camp was his grandfather's trophy after that fierce battle. And his grandfather, Li Honghe, was just an ordinary person in terms of physique. But Li Beitian had such a high opinion of these two people, so Li Tianlan had to pay attention to them. In the maze, Li Beitian's unification of thousands of swords against Lu Dongyu had majestic sword intent, but the sword energy was illusory. Its power had already surpassed the ice-condensing realm. Li Beitian believed that in his current state, if he took that sword head-on, even if he was lucky, he would at least be seriously injured. Such combat strength was absolutely rare in the younger generation, but he admitted that he was no match for Dongqing Rushi and Jiang Shangyu. No matter how arrogant Li Tianlan was, he wouldn't ignore this fact. But he still had some doubts and asked subconsciously, "Is what you said true? Damn you, is it a glorious thing to admit that you can't beat others?" Li Beitian said angrily. This was indeed a reason. Li Tianlan laughed and didn't take it seriously. He asked casually, "Who has a cigarette?" Ning Qianqing fumbled in his pocket, took out half a pack of Chunghua cigarettes and threw them to Li Tianlan. He said regretfully, "I'm almost out of stock. If I want to smoke again in the future, I have to exchange credits. Save some for me." Li Tianlan smiled, took out a cigarette, lit it, and threw it back. Each of the 3 of them smoked. Li Beitian had just woken up from a coma, and he had internal injuries. He coughed violently after a few puffs. He put out the cigarette helplessly and sighed. "This maneuver is a failure for me. The ranking is okay, but I didn't do anything in the end. Is this a victory without doing anything?" Tianlan's performance was brilliant. F***CK, you killed Lu Xiuwei, the old bastard. By the way, Tianlan, how did you kill Lu Xiuwei? What's the matter with your realm? Li Beitian had wanted to ask this question several times during the maneuver. Now that he finally found the opportunity, he was completely unyielding. It was really a fluke. Li Tianlan thought for a moment and said seriously, "My weapon was probably a little beyond his expectation. In addition, in a place where no one can see, my movement technique is much more agile than his. If we were to fight head-on, the result would be hard to say. However, that old fellow wanted to trick me, and in the end, I tricked him. He deserves to die." Facing Li Beitian and Ning Qianqing, Li Tianlan was completely telling the truth. The complexity of the human emperor was definitely beyond Lu Xiuwei's imagination. In addition, his body movement greatly restrained the martial arts of the Lu family, so the more Lu Xiuwei fought, the more impatient he became. Moreover, he thought himself clever. If he hadn't wanted to use the 2 trees to block the attack route of the human emperor, Li Tianlan wouldn't have beaten him at his own game. The human emperor instantly turned into 2 swords and directly cut off one of Lu Xiuwei's arms. From that moment on, Lu Xiuwei's fate was sealed. The martial arts of the Lu family is indeed not flexible enough. This is a well-known fact. Ning Qianqing nodded. The defeat of Lu Tianqing 10 years ago directly exposed the shortcomings of the martial arts of the Lu family. This was also something that many people found strange. After all, Lu Tianqing was an expert of the invincible realm. It shouldn't be difficult for him to create a set of body movement. Even if the body movement was ordinary, it could slightly make up for the shortcomings of the unique skills of the Lu family. But the problem was that he didn't have any unique skills of body movement worth mentioning until his death. No, Li Beitian suddenly said, it's true that the unique skills of the Lu family are flawed, but not all body movements can restrain them. Moreover, the gap between you and Lu Xiuwei is too big. So, to restrain them, only the top body movement in the dark world can do it. Tianlan, what body movement did you use? I call it Chengfeng. Li Tianlan said calmly, as for the top you mentioned, it shouldn't be counted, right? Chengfeng? It was indeed a name that no one had heard of. Li Beitian and Ning Qianqing looked at each other. After a moment of silence, Li Beitian said, Tianlan, do you mind if I try this set of body movement with you? Li Tianlan was stunned and wanted to say that it was not necessary. But seeing Li Beitian's serious expression, he swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Sure. Ning Qianqing didn't say anything but stood up and moved aside. He had heard rumors about the Great Void Sword of Mount Shu. The unique skills of the Great Void Sword had a total of 3 moves, but the third move was the perfect combination of sword and body movement. Its power could be said to be endless. Li Beitian certainly couldn't grasp the essence of the third move, but it shouldn't be a problem for him to know a little about it. Then I'm coming. Li Beitian stood up and said with a smile. His eyes were excited and he was eager to try. Come on. Li Tianlan nodded casually. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Beitian had already taken a step forward. In an instant, the sword intent in the ward surged. The whole ward seemed to disappear in an instant. Li Tianlan seemed to be in the void. His whole body was surrounded by sword energy, but at the same time, it was as if nothing existed. Only an endless breath of danger was erupting. The moment his mind was attracted by the endless sword intent, Li Beitian directly rushed forward and leaped over the distance of 7 or 8 meters. He punched directly at Li Tianlan's chest with his bare hands. There was a slight flash of lightning at the door of the ward. Jianghu, who happened to be in the hospital and was alarmed by the Great Void Sword intent, appeared directly at the door. At the same time, almost out of instinct, Li Tianlan moved slightly to the left and retreated at the same time. His body seemed to be weightless. Rather than saying he was moving, it would be better to say that he was floating. In a very small area, countless Li Tianlans appeared in an instant. Ning Qianqing, who was watching from the side, suddenly felt dizzy, but he didn't dare to relax his eyes at all. But in the next second, his pupils suddenly contracted to the extreme. In Li Tianlan's sight, all the afterimages were disappearing. Somehow, Li Tianlan's retreating body appeared behind Li Beitian and grabbed him by the neck. Such a body movement completely deceived everyone's eyes in an instant. The whole ward suddenly fell into a deathly silence. Li Beitian, who was already injured, bled again from the corner of his mouth. But he didn't notice it at all. He just exclaimed in disbelief, "How is this possible?" Ning Qianqing's shock was no less than Li Beitian's. He opened his mouth and was about to speak when Jianghu, who was at the door, directly spoke. Chapter 33. Li Tianlan's heart suddenly sank. Situ Zhongyue, the hidden god of Jianghu State. This was the second time he had heard the name today. The first time was from Zhuang Huayang's mouth. Not long ago, he told Li Tianlan that 10 years ago, Situ Zhongyue, the hidden god of Jianghu State, killed Lu Tianqing, an expert of the invincible realm. It could be seen that Situ Zhongyue was definitely one of the 4 experts of the invincible realm in Jianghu State, and she was an extraordinary one. But Li Tianlan really had nothing to do with him. Even this name, he had never heard of it before today. The body movement he used was given to him by his grandfather. After he slightly modified it, it became what it was now. It was called Chengfeng. But now, Xianxia suddenly appeared here and told him that this body movement was called Desperate Chase. What the hell was going on? In the twinkling of an eye, countless thoughts turned in Li Tianlan's mind. Could it be that this movement technique had really spread to the outside world and become the so-called Desperate Chase? Or were they actually 2 sets of body movement, but in fact, they were somewhat similar? If this kind of unique skill was really similar, it was actually very troublesome, and it might even arouse the hostility of Situ Zhongyue, an expert of the invincible realm. But if the two sets of body movement were really homologous, then what was Situ Tsongyue's current position? Li Tianlan was a little confused, but he knew that he could not lose his composure now. He let go of Li Beitian, nodded to Qin Ku, and did not answer her question. He just whispered, "Hello, Miss Qin." "Hello." Qin Ku's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. In Li Tianlan's impression, Qin Ku seemed to be cold and inhuman all the time. It could be said that she was an iceberg beauty. But at this moment, Qin Ku almost subverted Li Tianlan's impression. Her expression was still cold, but there was a kind of curious and extremely fiery light in her eyes. "Tianlan, how is Governor?" Qin Ku suddenly asked. "Governor? What governor?" Li Tianlan had a headache and made up his mind to catch up on relevant information. At the very least, he had to figure out the basic pattern of the special warfare system of Jianghu State. The so-called city lord was most likely related to Situ Tsongyue. At this point, he didn't know whether to deny it or to admit it. He just felt that something was wrong no matter what he said. At the moment, he could only bite the bullet and vaguely say, "The city lord has always been in good health." "That's good." Qin Ku smiled, which was very rare. The worship in her eyes flashed and then disappeared. Then, it became a little regretful. "I could have visited the city governor in person a few days ago. What a pity." Seeing that the cold beauty in front of him was most likely a fan of the governor, Li Tianlan dared not say more. He felt like an idiot. Now he was not even sure whether the governor was Situ Tsongyue or not. If Qin Ku wanted to gossip, he might make a fool of himself. So he glanced at Qin Ku and asked directly, "Teacher Qin, do you have anything else to say?" "Nothing." Qin Ku, who was in a trance, suddenly realized that she had lost her composure. She took a deep look at Li Tianlan and said softly, "It turns out that you are the disciple of Governor Situ." "No wonder, no wonder." She said "no wonder" twice and continued, "If you have a chance, say hello to the city lord for me. If you have anything in the future, you can also come to the teaching office to find me." There was no doubt that Li Tianlan's identity as the disciple of the city lord worked. Li Tianlan nodded subconsciously. Looking at her back as she left, he made up his mind to stay as far away from this woman as possible in the future. When Qin Ku was far away, Li Beitian directly rushed over without wiping the blood on the corner of his mouth. He said with his eyes shining, "Well done, Tianlan. It turns out that you are the most mysterious one. Tut tut, I have never heard that Governor Situ has accepted a disciple, and he is a man. Your status is not low." "A man?" Li Tianlan raised his eyebrows slightly. "So, Situ Tsongyue is the city lord? A woman?" The sharpness of this sentence was no less than a sharp sword. In an instant, Li Beitian was stunned. "What do you mean?" He was stunned for 2 seconds before he spoke subconsciously. Ning Qianqing was not surprised. A person who did not know the origin of the Wang family of Beihai, and seemed to be unfamiliar with the special warfare system was too unlikely to be Situ Tsongyue's disciple. But the body movement that Li Tianlan had just used was indeed Situ Tsongyue's famous unique skill. In recent years, it even had the reputation of being the first body movement in the dark world. It was impeccable and unpredictable when it moved in a small range and chased in a large range. Once he mastered such a body movement, he would almost be invincible in the face of any opponent in the same realm. It was Situ Tsongyue's secret. How did Li Tianlan learn it? "I don't know Situ Tsongyue," Li Tianlan said calmly. Li Beitian, who was stunned, finally came to his senses. The muscles on his face suddenly twitched. "You mean, you have nothing to do with the hidden god at all? Then how did you learn this body movement? This is her unique skill. She won't teach it to anyone except her last disciple." Li Tianlan felt a little helpless. It was really hard for him to answer this question because it involved his identity. He was willing to trust Ning Qianqing and Li Beidian, but the identity he was hiding now was too sensitive. It would not do either side any good if he told them. So he shook his head and said, "It's a long story. Let's talk about the hidden god of Jianghu State first." The hidden god of Jianghu State. Situ Tsongyue. What's there to say? Li Beitian was shocked and flustered. Ning Qianqing sneered and shook his head. The hidden god, Situ Tsongyue, is one of the 4 gods of Jianghu State. Among the 4 invincible realm experts of Jianghu State, she is the only woman. But she is strong and even a little crazy. This person doesn't follow the rules. Very few people dare to provoke her. 4 gods of Jianghu state? Are they the 4 invincible realm experts? Li Tianlan asked curiously. This was something that everyone in the special warfare system should know, but he didn't. He could only ask whatever he wanted in front of Ning Qianqing and Li Beitian. If it was on other occasions, given his cautious character, he wouldn't ask directly even if he didn't know. No. Ning Qianqing shook his head. Among the 4 gods, the first is the god of war of Jianghu state, governor of Kunlun city, Gu Xingyun. The second is the hidden god of Jianghu state, governor of Sai city, Situ Tsongyue. The third is the commander of our border Praetorian Corps, Dongqing Wudi, the god of massacre of Jianghu state. The last is the deputy minister of the army headquarters of Jianghu state, god of war Yi Dongsheng. God of war Yi Dongsheng. The corner of Li Tianlan's mouth moved. He took a deep breath and suppressed all his emotions. Among the 4 gods of Jianghu state, 3 of them have public offices. Only Situ Tsongyue and her Sai city are different. They belong to a semi-official organization, the so-called Special Warfare Giants, or Dark Giants. It is said that Situ Tsongyue also graduated from the Sky Academy many years ago and was one of the first few students. Sai City is the organization she founded after graduation. Nowadays, the strongest killers and assassins in Jianghu state are almost all gathered in Sai City. In addition, Situ Tsongyue holds the setting sun, one of the 12 murderous weapons of Jianghu state. Even in the whole dark world, they are also a pivotal force. Among the graduates of the Sky Academy and the Deep Sea Academy, Situ Tsongyue can be said to be the most accomplished dark giant. Li Tianlan rubbed his cheek hard, took a deep breath, and suddenly said, "What about Wang Tianzong, the top expert of Jianghu state? Why isn't he on the list of the 4 gods?" Ning Qianqing was obviously stunned, and then he said with a wry smile, "How do I know? People like him probably disdain this kind of ranking a long time ago, right?" Li Tianlan sat on the bed again and was in a daze. Cheng Feng. Desperate chase. Were these 2 kinds of movement techniques from the same source? If they were, what was the relationship between the current Sai city and Zhuanyuantai of Kunlun? What was Situ Tsongyue's attitude toward the Li family now? For Li Tianlan, behind this question was likely to be a tiger skin that could give him great protection, but it could also be a talisman that hastened his death. Before figuring this out, this set of body techniques could not be shown to others. With the agreement between him and Zhuang Huayang, he did not have to worry that Qin Ku would leak anything. Ning Qianqing and Li Beitian were also trustworthy. But at present, the feeling that he could only go with the flow in the general trend and be powerless to do anything made him extremely uncomfortable and unwilling. The turbulent situation between the 6 groups of Jianghu state and the maneuvering of the invincible realm experts seemed to be something he could only watch. The only thing he could do now was to restore his strength and earn points in the Sky Academy. Li Tianlan suddenly smiled. His smile was bitter, but it contained a kind of forbearance to the bones. "No matter how unwilling I am, what can I do?" he suddenly said in a low voice. His light tone seemed to be filled with endless distance. "What?" Ning Qianqing and Li Beitian looked at each other. "Nothing, I'm a little tired." Li Tianlan shook his head and forcibly suppressed all the thoughts in his mind. "Then you rest first. I'll eat something with Qianqing. What do you want to eat? I'll bring you a portion?" Li Beitian asked. "Whatever. Anything is fine." Li Tianlan lay casually on the bed and said calmly. Li Beitian nodded and said no more. He walked directly out of the ward with Ning Qianqing. The ward became quiet again. The light of the setting sun faded, and darkness enveloped the earth. Only the sound of waves beating on the shore continued to echo and enter the ears. Li Tianlan lay motionless on the bed, thinking about the camp at the border, the desert in Beijiang, and the current Sky Academy. He felt that his thoughts had never been clearer, but also never been more messy. It was the expectation and confusion for the future. The former Zhuanyuantai of Kunlun, the former god of war family. What was his fate? What was his own fate? His phone vibrated. Li Tianlan picked up the phone and glanced at it. His steady heartbeat suddenly began to speed up uncontrollably. It was not a phone call on the screen, but a video call from Qin Weibai from thousands of miles away. This was the first time Qin Weibai had sent him a video call since she went to Billy State. Li Tianlan turned over on the bed and lay on his stomach. His fingers that connected the video call were trembling slightly. The video call was connected. After a short delay, Qin Weibai's delicate and sharp, flawless beautiful face appeared directly on the screen. The kind of yearning with a little warmth and a little uneasiness seemed to flow through Li Tianlan's body. He stared at the screen in front of him and didn't know what to say for a moment. Qin Weibai took the initiative to break the silence. She smiled softly and said, "It's so dark over there. I can't see you clearly." "No, I forgot to turn on the light," Li Tianlan said a little awkwardly, but he didn't move. He felt as if his face was on fire. There was embarrassment, and nervousness. Fortunately, there was darkness to cover up such a state, so he didn't look so unnatural. "What are you doing?" Qin Weibai asked softly. Because of the time difference, it was late at night in Billy's state, but she was still dressed neatly. She seemed to be in a study. Behind her was a huge bookshelf and a crystal chandelier that looked extremely complicated and gorgeous. The chandelier flowed with a dreamy luster. Under the light, Qin Weibai had a kind of soul-stirring beauty. "I'm in a daze. What about you?" Li Tianlan gave a simple response. "I was thinking about you, so I opened a video call for you." Qin Weibai held her cheek with one hand and held the phone with the other. She smiled and squinted her eyes. Her whole body was rippling with an indescribable tenderness. "Ah!" Li Tianlan opened his mouth and didn't know what to say. His heartbeat was getting faster and faster, making his mouth a little dry. "Have you eaten?" Seeing that Li Tianlan didn't say anything, Qin Weibai pursed her lips and continued to ask. "Not yet. I don't have an appetite." Li Tianlan shook his head and looked at Qin Weibai's face seriously, not willing to miss any detail. "What? Are you unhappy?" Qin Weibai was also looking at Li Tianlan seriously. The look in their eyes was almost the same, but they didn't realize it. "I'm okay. I'm just a little tired." Li Tianlan scratched his head and suddenly wanted to smoke again. "You still need to eat something and go to bed early after eating. You should have a holiday after the entrance maneuver. Have you thought about going out for a walk?" Qin Weibai said softly. "Well, I'm going home. You said you left me some information. I want to have a look." Li Tianlan's tone was a little fast. He didn't know how nervous he was when he said he was going home. "Well." Qin Weibai's voice suddenly became soft. The softness of a little woman, which no one had ever seen before, overflowed unconsciously. She was charming. She suddenly asked, "Did you miss me after I came to Billy's state?" Li Tianlan was stunned and nodded subconsciously. "Yes." He hesitated, then gritted his teeth and said, "I missed you very much." At this moment, all the pressure and annoyance in his heart disappeared, and his eyes were unprecedentedly bright. Qin Weibai smiled softly, but she laughed out loud. "I missed you very much too." Her voice was low and soft, like a warm current, flowing directly into Li Tianlan's heart. Li Tianlan scratched his head and giggled. On the other side of the screen, Qin Weibai looked at him quietly for a while and said, "I'm hanging up. There are still some things to deal with. If you miss me, you can turn on the video call me at any time. My phone is always with me." "Okay," Li Tianlan responded. Watching Qin Weibai's face disappear in front of his eyes, his heart became a little sad. At the same time, thousands of miles away, in the Aurora Hotel in Bruxelles. In the luxury suite, Qin Weibai looked at the dim screen of her phone, and her eyes were also a little sad. There were a lot of documents piled up in front of her. The ones on the left had been dealt with, and the ones on the right had not been read. But at this moment, holding the phone, she suddenly lost interest in everything in front of her. There was a slight knock on the door. Before Qin Weibai could answer, Flaming Fire had pushed the door open and walked in. She said respectfully, "Boss, General Bashir is still waiting." General Bashir. In Billy's state, this was definitely a resounding name. He was the real power in the military of Billy's state, and he had a real high position and power. But at this time, such a powerful general had been waiting in a carefully prepared negotiation room in the hotel for nearly 6 hours. "I won't see him." Qin Weibai shook her head and said lightly, "Okay." Flaming Fire nodded expressionlessly and turned to go out. "Flaming Fire!" Qin Weibai suddenly shouted. Flaming Fire's figure, which was about to go out, paused slightly and stopped at the door. "Get ready." Qin Weibai's eyes were deep and gentle. She looked at the phone in her tender white palm. Let's go back to Jianghu State. Now. Now. Flaming Fire's expression changed, and she hesitated. But tomorrow. Let's go back to Jianghu State now. With her back to Flaming Fire, she quietly turned on her mobile phone and looked at Li Tianlan, who was in a daze on the screen. She murmured softly, I miss him. I miss him so much. Flaming Fire took a deep breath, answered, and turned to leave directly. Qin Weibai was still sitting in the same position, quietly looking at Li Tianlan on the phone, her eyes hazy. In a trance, she seemed to think of that dream again. She thought of that man, the heavy snow many years ago, and the end of his destiny, which was full of thunder and snowflakes. Qin Weibai's eyes became more and more hazy and blurred. Tears quietly slid down her cheeks. She came to her senses and wiped her eyes. On the screen of the phone, the dull Li Tianlan became clear again. She tightly pursed her rosy lips and looked calm, but her eyes, which were as bright as the galaxy, were burning with endless madness. Chapter 34. Even as the little princess of the Wang family of Beihai, Wang Yuetong was in some ways just like ordinary people. She was very interested in going out to play, especially when she thought that she would be locked up on this island for an unknown period of time. She seemed to be even more impatient. At dawn, Wang Yuetong had already arrived at Li Tianlan's ward. She seemed to know that it was a little early, so her voice was a little low and she seemed a little guilty. Senior brother Tianlan, are you up? Yes. Li Tianlan answered. He was in a deep sleep, but he was extremely vigilant. The instinctive attitude of guarding against everything around him had long been engraved in his blood and bones. Not to mention when he was asleep, even when he was in a deep coma, when someone who could threaten his safety appeared, he could also rely on instinct to make unconscious counterattacks. Before Wang Yuetong approached the door, he had already opened his eyes. She hesitated at the door again. When she opened her mouth, Li Tianlan had basically put on his clothes. He stood up from the bed, stretched his body and said casually, Come in, the door is not locked. The door was gently pushed open, and Wang Yuetong walked into the ward with a smile on her face. She looked at Li Tianlan with a sweet smile. Even Li Tianlan, who had been occupied by Qin Weibai and could hardly contain any color, at the sight of Wang Yuetong at this moment, his eyes also lit up. The camouflage uniforms of the Sky Academy were only for convenience in combat, and they were not particular about style at all. They were even a little loose. Wang Yuetong's appearance in camouflage uniforms was already extremely stunning, but after she changed into casual clothes, her charm increased a lot. Now the little princess of the Wang family, the little demon girl, seemed to be shining from head to toe. Wherever she went, she was the focus of people's attention. She was wearing a pair of white skin-tight jeans, which completely outlined the lines of her slender legs. It could be said that her legs were one of the most beautiful legs Li Tianlan had ever seen. They were long, slender, and straight, almost comparable to Qin Weibai's. After taking off her military boots, Wang Yuetong put on a pair of black but playful stiletto heels, which almost held up all her aura. She was wearing a white long-sleeved sweater, which was also a slim style, which fully displayed her charming figure. Her long hair casually fell over her shoulders. She smiled softly, like an elf or an angel who had been left in the world. At this moment, Wang Yuetong seemed to have changed into another person. The charming and flamboyant coquettish aura had all disappeared. Instead, she was a very quiet, lively, and somewhat elegant beautiful girl. You are very beautiful today. Even more beautiful than yesterday. After a few seconds of silence, Li Tianlan took the initiative to open his mouth and praised sincerely. Is that so? Senior brother Tianlan, do you like this type? Wang Yuetong's smile became sweeter and sweeter. She took the initiative to turn in a circle in front of Li Tianlan. The sound of her high-heeled shoes hitting the ground was crisp and sweet. In a trance, the moment Wang Yuetong turned around, Li Tianlan's eyes were completely attracted by her extremely perky buttocks wrapped under the skin-tight jeans. What a beautiful scenery! Li Tianlan suppressed his wild imagination and said directly, Why don't I see Qingyan? Yu Qingyan and Wang Yuetong were now in the same dormitory, and there were only the two of them in the dormitory for the time being. Now that it was the holiday, Yu Qingyan had no reason to stay at school instead of accompanying Yu Donglai if Wang Yuetong wanted to go out. Li Tianlan also happened to be going to Yu Donglai's place to get the key. He had thought that they could go together, but he did not expect that Wang Yuetong would come alone. Before Wang Yuetong could answer, footsteps sounded at the door. Li Beitian and Ning Qianqing walked in one after another. Wang Yuetong's bright eyes turned, and she seemed to be unaware of everything behind her. She chuckled and said, "Qing Yan is a sensible girl. She said that she would not disturb me and her brother Li, so she went home first." Li Beitian and Ning Qianqing, who had just entered the door, suddenly froze. Wang Yuetong said this with her back to them, leaving them some leeway. But the meaning of her words could not be more obvious. Yu Qingyan was so sensible, if they went out with Li Beitian, wouldn't it be insensible? The little princess of the Wang family of Beihai had made it so clear that she wanted to spend time with Li Tianlan alone. If they were still so insensible, they would offend her. Li Beitian coughed softly. Wang Yuetong seemed to have just noticed their arrival. She turned her head and said with some surprise, "Why are you so early?" "We're here to say hello to Tianlan," Li Beitian said with a straight face. Wang Yuetong's eyes were full of smiles, but Li Tianlan was puzzled. "Say hello to what?" Well, Qianqing and I suddenly have something to deal with, so we have to stay in the academy for some time. Tianlan, you go out with Yuetong first. We'll go to you after we deal with things, and then we'll contact you by phone?" Li Beitian said casually. But looking at his twinkling eyes, Li Tianlan was not stupid. How could he not know that they were making way for Wang Yuetong? This gave Li Tianlan a headache. Before he grew up completely, or before he was completely against the Wang family of Beihai, he and Wang Yuetong could probably maintain a relationship of good friends or even confidants. But all this was an illusion after all. When the Li family appeared in Jianghu state again and faced the Wang family of Beihai, it would be a matter of the overall situation. In the overall situation, the friendship between him and Wang Yuetong could only become the entanglement and helplessness of both sides. From this point of view, Li Tianlan did not intend to be too close to Wang Yuetong. That night, he had stabilized the healing of his injury and his longevity, and he had regarded it as a favor that he had to return. In other words, Li Tianlan had clearly drawn a line between him and Wang Yuetong. Now he really did not want to be alone with her. Although her charm was not enough to change Li Tianlan's standpoint, he still felt uncomfortable at the thought that one day they would part ways or even oppose each other. "My aunt is now in Huiting. We haven't seen each other for more than a year. After Beitian and I finish our business, I'll go to visit my aunt. How about tonight? Let's get together at night, okay?" Ning Qianqing glanced at Wang Yuetong's face and simply gave her a clear time. It was only early in the morning. From morning to night, it would be more than 10 hours, which was not a short time at all. He believed that the time was enough to satisfy Wang Yuetong. After all, it was impossible for the two to spend the night outside alone. Not to mention that Wang Yuetong would not do that. Even if she really took the wrong medicine and wanted to do so, the experts of the Wang family of Beihai who secretly protected Wang Yuetong would not agree. "Senior brother Tianlan?" Wang Yuetong got the answer she was satisfied with and turned to look at Li Tianlan. Her eyes were still soft and even a little sweet, but there was a trace of toughness and persistence in them that would not make people feel disgusted. "I don't care," Li Tianlan said flatly. "Then it's decided. Let's go." Wang Yuetong giggled and ran over to pull Li Tianlan's arm. "Yuetong, where are you taking Tianlan?" Ning Qianqing suddenly asked without batting an eyelid. Wang Yuetong did not think too much about it. With her identity, she could be completely unscrupulous among the younger generation and say whatever she wanted. "Second uncle has just returned to Huiting recently. I'm taking him to meet him." Was he going to meet his parents? Second uncle? Li Beitian was fine. He had been in Mount Shu for a long time. Although he was not ignorant of the outside world, he would not pay too much attention to it. However, Ning Qianqing's face suddenly changed. But it was not convenient for him to say anything in front of Wang Yuetong, so he just gave Li Tianlan a wink. Wang Yuetong's second uncle was the younger brother of Wang Tianzong, the patriarch of the Wang family of Beihai. He was an extremely famous figure in Huiting, and even the entire Jianghu state. He could even be said to be one of the most famous playboys. Not only was he popular in the playboy circle, but he also had great power in the political and business circles of Jianghu state. Ning Qianqing had never met Wang Yuetong's second uncle, but it was said that he was less than 30 years old and had entered the Thundershocking realm for nearly 3 years. He even had the hope of breaking through to the Invincible realm in the future. The Wang family of Beihai had been established in Jianghu state for hundreds of years. There were countless versions of rumors about them, even specific to a certain core member. The most widely circulated version today was that after the Prince group took over Huiting from the Southeast group 5 years ago, the Wang family of Beihai was not reconciled to it and directly sent Wang Yuetong's second uncle over, intending to secretly fight for the dominance of Huiting. Now, the internal power hierarchy of Huiting was very chaotic. Even if the Prince group took over Huiting, it would only take the first opportunity. It was still far from the situation of being a sole power. The Wang family of Beihai directly sent this heavyweight to Huiting. It seemed that they really intended to fight for the dominance of Huiting. Ning Qianqing was not very clear about the second uncle's ability, but he was well aware of his domineering and ferocious nature. It was said that a few months ago, Wang Yuetong's second uncle beat Huiting's young master Zhong Yuwei into a vegetative state in Huiting for a mysterious woman with the surname Qin. The incident caused quite a stir. After that, the super playboy of the Wang family of Beihai swaggered back to Beihai province. After keeping a low profile for a few months, he came back again. It seemed that Zhong Yuwei's matter had been left unsettled. Zhong Yuwei himself was not a big deal, but his uncle could be regarded as a real top bigwig in the entire Jianghu state. Zhong Yongming. He was one of the leaders of the Prince group, a member of the Jianghu decision-making committee, and the top leader of Huiting. Zhong Yuwei, such a backer, was directly abolished. It seemed that he was lying in the hospital in a coma until now. But a few months had passed, and the Zhong family had never taken any action. The strength of the Wang family of Beihai, and the ferociousness and arrogance of the second uncle were all evident. Watching Li Tianlan and Wang Yuetong walk out of the ward, Ning Qianqing frowned and took out his mobile phone. He tried to shorten the words he wanted to say and typed quickly. Li Beitian also took out his mobile phone with a smile and sent a message to Li Tianlan. "What the hell did you send? Why are you smiling so wretchedly?" Ning Qianqing asked with a frown. "I told Tianlan that it's treacherous to refuse her. The little princess of the Wang family of Beihai. TSK. TSK. I hope he can understand what I mean." Li Beitian said with a smile. "Bullshit. Do you know who Wang Yuetong is taking Tianlan to see?" Ning Qianqing said coldly. "Who?" Li Beitian was slightly stunned. "Isn't she an elder?" Ning Qianqing was so angry that he had a headache. He rubbed his temples hard and continued to type without looking up. "Yes, she is an elder, but she is also the playboy who seems to be the most idle and reckless in the entire Wang family of Beihai. Wang Xiaoyao. King Xiaoyao of the Wang family of Beihai. Do you really think this meeting is a good thing?" When they walked out of the hospital gate, the sky was already bright. The air was slightly cold. Li Tianlan walked in front in silence, thinking about who Wang Yuetong's second uncle was and what was the point of Wang Yuetong taking him there. Suddenly, a light and charming voice sounded behind him. "Senior brother Tianlan, are you nervous?" Li Tianlan was about to answer when the phone in his pocket suddenly vibrated. He took out the phone and looked at the message from Li Beitian. After a while he replied, "Damn you." As soon as he finished typing, the phone vibrated again. This time, it was a message from Ning Qianqing. Li Tianlan opened it and scanned it quickly. Suddenly, he smiled and put the phone back into his pocket calmly. He said, "The Wang family of Beihai occupies Jianghu state and is a real behemoth. It's understandable that I'm a little nervous, isn't it? Don't worry. Second uncle won't eat people." Wang Yuetong giggled and approached Li Tianlan. The fresh and fragrant scent of a young girl blew over, intoxicating him. But Li Tianlan secretly smiled bitterly. Won't eat people? In the message sent by Ning Qianqing, it was clear that Wang Yuetong's second uncle, Wang Xiaoyao, would eat people without spitting out the bones. Furthermore, I'm not taking you out this time to see second uncle. Then who? Li Tianlan asked in confusion. A Taoist priest named Xianxia. Wang Yuetong said softly with awe in her eyes. She suddenly asked, "Senior brother Tianlan, do you believe in fate?" "Fate?" Li Tianlan raised his eyebrows. After a long silence he said calmly, "Whether I believe it or not, my grandfather once told me that I cannot believe in fate, but I cannot be disrespectful and fearless." "You will believe it." Wang Yuetong walked beside Li Tianlan and looked at him quietly. Her eyes were even brighter than the rising sun. "Senior brother Tianlan, today, in front of Xianxia, You will see your own fate. The real fate. Chapter 35. Garden Party. For most Huiting locals, this was a very strange name. But for a few people, it was one of the top clubs in the entire Huiting. Garden Party was located in the Lanshan National Forest Park in the southwest of Huiting's Yunjian district. It covered an area of less than 1,500 acres, surrounded by ancient trees and towering yellow trees that blocked the sun. A group of antique buildings dotted the surrounding green hills and clear waters. The scenery was extremely tranquil. Although the club was built in the National Forest Park, it was not listed or open to the public. Instead, it implemented a membership system. In the nearly 5 or 6 years since its establishment, there were less than 100 members. Therefore, the entire building complex was in a state of extreme desolation most of the time. In the early morning sun, Wang Yuetong drove a beige beetle along a hidden path. While driving, she introduced the garden party to Li Tianlan. Garden party was started by second uncle when he first came to Huiting. In the past 5 years, less than 100 membership cards have been issued. Among them, 20 are senior members, and the rest are ordinary members. But even ordinary members are some very powerful people in Huiting. A membership card of Garden Party can also represent the cardholder's identity in Huiting to a certain extent. Wang Yuetong blinked her eyes and looked at the road ahead. She said softly, "Senior brother, I'll ask second uncle to give you a membership card later. In the future, when we are on vacation and I'm not around, you can come here for a walk. Although there are not many guests here on weekdays, once you meet them, it's worth making friends. The Sky Academy is not an ordinary school. The connections inside and outside the school are very close. If you want to develop in Huiting or in the south in the future, it's always good to know more people. And the less than 100 members here are the most worthy of knowing." "Thank you," Li Tianlan said calmly, but he sighed softly in his heart. Wang Yuetong might be kind to him, but the nearly 100 members of Garden Party were destined to be of little help to him. After all, every member here was basically a member of the Southeast Group, or someone who would not have a conflict of interest with the Southeast Group in a short time. Now the Southeast Group was dominated by the Wang family of Beihai. Once his identity was exposed, it was conceivable how the people here would treat him. However, Li Tianlan also understood Wang Yuetong's thoughts. It was certain that she wanted to help him. But from her point of view, the other meaning of her help was that she wanted him to integrate into the system of the Southeast Group. This might seem right to Wang Yuetong, but Li Tianlan couldn't do it. It was better to be a farmer than a vassal. If they wanted to be a vassal, except for Kunlun City, everyone, including the Prince Group, would welcome Grandpa and the Li family to join them. Why did the Li family bother to guard the border for so many years? Why did he have to carefully hide his identity? As long as they could swallow their pride, the entire Li family might have already reappeared in Jianghu State as a vassal. But why had Grandpa endured for so many years? For so many years, countless elites of Zhuanyuantai of Kunlun had followed Grandpa to guard the border. Why would they rather die in battle than leave the camp? It was all because of Zhuanyuantai of Kunlun and the dignity and pride of the god of war family for hundreds of years. Who would want to be someone else's vassal? Who would dare to be someone else's vassal? Li Tianlan sat in the passenger seat of the beetle in silence. With a calm expression, he let Wang Yuetong take him through the path and into the gate of the garden party. A large area of ancient garden-like buildings appeared in Li Tianlan's sight. In April, the flowers were blooming in the warmth of spring, and there were thousands of purple and red flowers. In front of him, there were small bridges, flowing water, and pavilions full of ancient style, which made people forget the secular world. Occasionally, there were gentle and elegant waitresses in cheongsams shuttling through the beautiful flowers with trays in their hands. All the scenes in front of him revealed an extremely rare kind of tranquility and peace from the details. All the ups and downs of the secular world seemed to be completely non-existent. Li Tianlan thought of Qin Weibai and a sentence. "I really should have brought you here." Every time Qin Weibai saw something new and sent him a WeChat message, she probably had this kind of mentality, right? "Let's go." Looking at Li Tianlan, who was in a daze, Wang Yuetong came to him and whispered with a smile, "Don't look anymore. If you like this place, you can come often after you get the card. During the 7-day holiday, you can stay here every day and no one will care. But you can't have any ideas about the waitresses here. The women here are all shrewd, and they eat you up without spitting out the bones. Li Tianlan followed Wang Yuetong across a small bridge. Looking at the clear water and the fish in the water under his feet, he laughed casually and said, "What? Can you have ideas about the waitresses here?" "Theoretically, yes. There are 3 beauties in the garden party. Beautiful scenery, delicious food, and beautiful women." Wang Yuetong explained in a low voice, "Every waitress here has to have at least a master's degree, and they must have enough EQ and good looks. Any one of them can be regarded as a real beauty with taste and beauty. If they are willing to have something with the guests, the manor won't care." "What a foul atmosphere." Li Tianlan shook his head and said subconsciously. Wang Yuetong glanced at Li Tianlan in astonishment and suddenly burst into laughter. "Senior brother Tianlan, you are so cute when you are old-fashioned." Li Tianlan didn't bother to explain anything and followed Wang Yuetong all the way. After walking in the beautiful and quiet garden for more than 10 minutes, the destination finally appeared in front of them. Less than 20 meters away from his line of sight was an octagonal pavilion supported by several thick pillars. It was almost completely surrounded by water, and there was only a small path less than 2 meters wide extending forward all the way to the center of the pavilion. Inside the pavilion, an old man and a young man were sitting opposite each other on both sides of the stone table. They seemed to be playing chess. Wang Yuetong slightly quickened her pace. Before she got close, she called out, "Second uncle." In the pavilion, the young man sitting opposite the old man raised his head. When he saw Wang Yuetong, a doting smile immediately appeared on his face. When he saw Li Tianlan, he was slightly stunned, but his smile didn't diminish. He waved to the two but didn't get up. Instead, he focused on the chessboard in front of him again. Li Tianlan calmly walked into the pavilion. He didn't look at the old man and the young man who were playing, but first glanced at the chessboard subconsciously. Inside the chessboard, black and white chess pieces crisscrossed, almost covering the whole chessboard. The 2 players looked solemn, and they moved more and more slowly. Li Tianlan knew a little about Go. He only knew the rules but had never studied it deeply. After a brief glance, he felt something was wrong. The black and white chess pieces on the chessboard were well proportioned, but the layout was really strange, almost illogical and unreasonable. While he was puzzled, he saw the solemn old man put down the chess piece and said with a gentle smile, "I'll stop. If I continue, I'll lose. I'm tired." What a good game of Gamoku. It can be called a world-famous game. Wang Yuetong smiled casually. Although her tone was a compliment, there was no sincerity in it. Chess is a game of intelligence. Gamoku, Go, Chinese chess, and even Chinese checkers are essentially the same. "Princess, why do you care what chess it is? As long as you're happy, any game is the same." The old man looked up at Wang Yuetong and said with a smile. The old man was about 60 or 70 years old. He wore a green robe, had long hair and a short beard, and his hair and beard were all white. In terms of appearance, he could only be regarded as average, and his face was even a little sickly pale. The only extraordinary thing was his eyes. The old man's eyes didn't look very wise and experienced, but they were extremely bright, shining like stars, as if they could see through everything in a flash. But what impressed Li Tianlan most was his temperament. It was a temperament that was hard to describe, as if it was pure to the extreme, mysterious and transcendental. He sat there quietly, with a gentle smile and clear eyes, but it gave people the illusion that he was not a human being. Was this the extraordinary Taoist Xianxia who was said to be a guest of honor even by Wang Tianzong? "Yuetong greets you, Taoist priest." Wang Yuetong bowed politely, but her tone was not soft. "But what you said is wrong, Taoist priest. Although Gamoku and Go are both chess, their rules are very different. How can these 2 games be confused? They're all the same." The old man's eyes were still gentle, with indescribable calmness and deep meaning. "The great way is the simplest. This girl doesn't like to use her brain since she was a child, so she can't understand what you're saying." The young man opposite to the old man glanced at Wang Yuetong with a smile. "But this girl has a conscience. She came here just after the holiday. I didn't dote on you in vain. Second uncle, coming to you is not my main purpose. I heard that the old immortal Xianxia is here, so I came to get some immortal qi." Wang Yuetong wrinkled her nose and muttered. She took a step back, pulled Li Tianlan over, and said with a smile, "Let me introduce you. This is senior brother Li Tianlan." We're in the same year. Senior brother Tianlan has wind and thunder veins, so his future is limitless. Wind and thunder veins. As soon as she said that, not to mention Wang Yuetong's second uncle Wang Xiaoyao, even Xianxia, who was sitting opposite Wang Xiaoyao, stared at Li Tianlan with his bright eyes. If that's the case, then he's a real young talent. Tianlan, this name is a bit interesting. Wang Xiaoyao looked at Li Tianlan, and his eyes flickered for a moment. He took the initiative to extend his hand and said with a smile, Tianlan, I'm Wang Xiaoyao. You and Yuetong are classmates. If you don't mind, you can call me second uncle. Li Tianlan took a serious look at Wang Xiaoyao, shook hands with him, and called him second uncle. Wang Xiaoyao was 30 years old, but he looked like he was in his late 20s. He was tall and handsome, a standard pretty boy. Ning Qianqing had said in WeChat that Wang Xiaoyao was the most domineering playboy in the Wang family of Beihai, but at this moment, Li Tianlan could not see it at all. On the contrary, Wang Xiaoyao's eyes were extremely modest and calm, and his smile was sincere, which made people feel good at first sight. He did not have the slightest domineering attitude. At this moment, Li Tianlan did not know that today's encounter was a meeting between rivals in love on a different level. But because of the preconceived notions instilled in him by Ning Qianqing, he became more vigilant when he looked at the low-key and modest Wang Xiaoyao. In his mind, such a person was definitely countless times more dangerous than those who were outwardly arrogant and domineering. Sit down. Wang Xiaoyao patted Li Tianlan's shoulder casually, his movement natural. You're Yuetong's friend, so you're not an outsider. Don't be nervous. Li Tianlan did not say much and sat down casually beside Wang Yuetong. In his perception, not only was Wang Xiaoyao sizing him up, but even the old Taoist Xianxia sitting opposite Wang Xiaoyao seemed to have his eyes on him a little longer. Li Tianlan turned to look at him and nodded slightly. Do you believe in destiny, my young friend? Xianxia, who had been observing Li Tianlan, suddenly asked with a smile and a gentle tone. Li Tianlan did not dare to be careless. Jianghu state was a vast land with abundant resources and countless extraordinary people. Although metaphysics was classified as superstition, real metaphysicians did not necessarily not exist. His grandfather once told him that there were indeed a few half-immortals in Jianghu state, who could see through the fate of others at a glance despite playing games. Xianxia, who was in front of him, was treated as a distinguished guest by the Wang family of Beihai. Although Li Tianlan did not know if he also had the ability to see through his fate at a glance, he was sure that he was not a Jianghu swindler. Believe it or not, Li Tianlan said cautiously after a long silence. Of course. Xianxuanzi's smile became more and more amiable. He stared at Li Tianlan's face seriously, and his interest grew stronger. He said again, my young friend, everyone has a destiny. If you don't mind, can you show me your left hand and listen to me talk about your destiny? Wang Xiaoyao was slightly stunned. There was some surprise in Wang Yuetong's eyes. This was the reason why she brought Li Tianlan here recently. Xianxuanzi was a real extraordinary person in Taoism, a grandmaster of metaphysics. It was said that his eyes could not only see through the cause and effect of heaven and earth, but also control some of the fate of the country. Therefore, not only the Wang family of Beihai treated him as a distinguished guest, but also several power giants in the Hidden Dragon Sea, the power center of Jianghu state, treated him with great courtesy. What such an extraordinary person said almost had a prophecy effect. Wang Yuetong went to the Sky Academy this time with the intention of finding talents for the Wang family of Beihai. Li Tianlan was her most important target, not only because of his wind and thunder veins, but also because of his behavior. Wang Yuetong even had a good impression of him. If such a person joined the Wang family of Beihai, once he entered the Invincible Realm or even the Thundershocking Realm, the strength of the entire Wang family of Beihai would greatly increase. Now that Xianxuanzi happened to come to Huiting, Wang Yuetong brought Li Tianlan here to let Xianxuanzi see his destiny. As long as he could give him some advice, Li Tianlan's growth could be accelerated again. For Li Tianlan, this was a kindness, and it also meant that he could get closer to the Wang family of Beihai. Wang Yuetong was thinking about how to tell Xianxuanzi, but she didn't know that the old Taoist was interested in Li Tianlan. This couldn't be better. Li Tianlan seemed a little surprised, but he had no reason to refuse. Even if the old Taoist could really see through his destiny, he didn't believe that the old Taoist could really see through his background. He thought for a while, then directly reached his left hand in front of Xianxia and said sincerely, "Thank you, Taoist." Xianxia nodded with a smile, narrowed his clear eyes, and looked carefully. Li Tianlan waited quietly. Wang Yuetong sat beside him with her hands intertwined. She looked more nervous than Li Tianlan. Wang Xiaoyao, who noticed this detail, frowned, but didn't say anything. Xianxia looked for nearly 5 minutes. Just when Li Tianlan thought he had fallen asleep, he moved his body, raised his eyes, looked at Li Tianlan, and said with a smile, "Extreme prosperity leads to decline. My little friend, you must have experienced a lot of hardships when you were young. If I'm not wrong, about a year ago, my little friend, you just experienced a life-and-death tribulation. Am I right?" Li Tianlan subconsciously clenched his left hand, and his face changed dramatically. Such a reaction didn't need him to prove anything. It had already proved the accuracy of Xianxia. Xianxia acted as if he didn't see all this, and continued, "What's next should be the sea and the sky. My little friend, after you graduate from the Sky Academy, I suggest you go to Wuxia to develop. Wuxia has King's Qi. If you can get a foothold in Wuxia, you'll have no regrets in your life. Judging from your palm reading, your little friend's fate for the rest of your life has been completed. It can be said that your fate is extremely prosperous, and you have the aura of a heavenly sun." Wang Xiaoyao instinctively narrowed his eyes. His eyes were cold and flashed with killing intent. He didn't doubt Xianxuanzi's words, but there were 2 sentences in Xianxuanzi's words that touched the most sensitive part of his heart. The first was Wuxia. Wuxia province was now the most prosperous and powerful province in Jianghu state. The provincial capital, Jinling, was very close to Huiting. More importantly, the entire Wuxia province could be said to be the back garden of the Wang family of Beihai, and its firmness was second only to that of Beihai province. Wuxia was the place where the Wang family of Beihai first made its fortune. It was okay for Li Tianlan to join the Wang family of Beihai, but if he didn't, where would the Wang family of Beihai be when he got a foothold in Wuxia? The second was the aura of a heavenly sun. The heavenly sun appeared in Jianghu state every 500 years. The so-called heavenly sun must be someone who had a profound influence on the dark world. For example, the ancestor of the Wang family of Beihai who rose in Wuxia after the family fell into desolation hundreds of years ago and brought the Wang family of Beihai to its peak. The number 1 expert in the dark world was not necessarily a heavenly sun, but a heavenly sun was definitely the number 1 expert in the dark world. When the heavenly sun appeared, the tribulation came. If the heavenly sun faced the tribulation, who would face the heavenly sun? This was also said by Xianxuanzi. What he said couldn't be more obvious. Wang Xiaoyao looked at Li Tianlan and then at Wang Yuetong, whose eyes were a little excited. His expression changed, and finally, he hid all the killing intent and calmed down again. Li Tianlan looked at Xianxuanzi seriously and said respectfully, "Thank you for your advice, Taoist." Xianxuanzi smiled and waved his hand. Just when he was about to speak, Li Tianlan's phone suddenly rang. Li Tianlan was stunned, and then he smiled apologetically at them, walked aside and picked up the phone. "I'm going to find something to eat. Senior brother and I didn't have breakfast. We're starving," Wang Yuetong said and also stood up to leave. Only Wang Xiaoyao and Xianxuanzi were left in the pavilion again. There was a moment of silence. Xianxuanzi glanced at Wang Xiaoyao, who was thoughtful, and suddenly laughed. "Xiaoyao, did you want to kill me just now?" Wang Xiaoyao didn't hide it. He smiled bitterly and acquiesced. "It's not necessary at all," Xianxuanzi said softly. "From the standpoint of the Wang family of Beihai, I advise you not to act rashly. Otherwise, it may backfire." "What do you mean?" Wang Xiaoyao sat up straight subconsciously and asked attentively. "Exactly what I said." Xianxuanzi smiled. "Within 10 years, this guy's luck will be very prosperous. If you can get close to him, it will definitely do more good than harm." "Within 10 years?" Wang Xiaoyao frowned. He could listen to every word of Xianxuanzi and thought about it seriously. What will happen after 10 years? Xianxuanzi lowered his eyelids and said calmly, "After 10 years, he will definitely die." Chapter 36. Walking out of the pavilion, Li Tianlan looked at the caller ID and was a little surprised. It turned out to be Yu Qingyan's phone number. He didn't have time to think and answered. Yu Donglai's old voice sounded directly from the other end of the phone. Boy, where are you? Li Tianlan was stunned for a moment and told the truth. I'm at the garden party. Did you see Wang Xiaoyao? Yu Donglai's tone was flat, but Li Tianlan still heard a trace of nervousness from his tone. Not to mention that he now knew Li Tianlan's terrifying potential and bright future. Even if he didn't know anything, it was necessary for him to care about Li Tianlan because of Li Honghe. Li Tianlan's identity was hidden, but it didn't mean that there was no flaw. If Wang Xiaoyao of the Wang family of Beihai found out, the consequences would be disastrous. For many years, the silence of the Southeast Group and the centralization of power of the Wang family of Beihai had made Yu Donglai recognize the situation. In such a situation, once Li Tianlan's identity was exposed in front of the Wang family of Beihai, how could he survive? Yes. Li Tianlan continued. Senior Yu, do you have the key to Weibai's house? I'll get it today. When are you free? Now, I'm at home now. Come here and I'll give you the key. Yu Donglai was silent for a moment and said, I guess with your identity, you won't have a good time staying there. Come here and let's have a drink. Wang Xiaoyao seemed to be a playboy and acted arrogantly, but he was definitely not a fool. After Huiting fell, the forces of the Southeast Group in Huiting were all in a panic. Several wealthy families moved their headquarters elsewhere, and the situation was extremely chaotic. In less than a year since Wang Xiaoyao entered Huiting, he had stabilized the situation. After several years of operation, not only did the Prince Group never gain the initiative, but the remaining forces of the Southeast Group had completely stabilized their position. This kind of ability was really not something that an ordinary playboy could have. The more Li Tianlan stayed under Wang Xiaoyao's eyes, the more likely he would be exposed. It was better for him to come back as soon as possible. Now, Li Tianlan hesitated slightly. Do you have any concerns? Yu Donglai raised his eyebrows and asked. I came with Wang Yuetong. Li Tianlan said softly. That's fine. Just bring him along. It just so happens that Qing Yan is also here. The two sisters can chat while we chat. We won't disturb each other. Yu Donglai said indifferently. The old man was a top chef inside the Red Wall a few years ago. Earlier, he was a life-and-death brother who followed Li Honghe to conquer the world. Although he did not enter the invincible realm at his peak, the name of Poison Doctor could also be a prominent figure in the dark world who could suppress most of the scenes. When he was with Li Honghe, he was also a top general of the Southeast Group. Over the years, as the Li family fell into desolation, the Wang family of Beihai turned a deaf ear to the Li family, but it absolutely took good care of the old ministers of the Southeast Group who were still in Jianghu state. Even Wang Tianzong, the patriarch of the Wang family of Beihai, visited Yu Donglai's small courtyard in person. As for Wang Xiaoyao, since he came to Huiting 5 years ago, he would definitely come to visit during the festival. Even Wang Yuetong and the next generation of the Wang family of Beihai, Wang Xianxia, who was known as the future heavenly son of Jianghu state, also came. Yu Donglai couldn't let go of the knot in his heart. He was not warm to Wang Xiaoyao, but he really liked Wang Yuetong. This girl was clever at a young age, and wise at an older age. It was a pity that she was a woman. If she was a man, the Wang family of Beihai would definitely be more terrifying in the decades to come. Okay, then I'll go now. Li Tianlan did not hesitate and agreed directly. He was really not used to staying with Wang Xiaoyao and Xianxia. Xianxia was an extraordinary person of Taoism, and Wang Xiaoyao was a core figure of the Wang family of Beihai. In front of them, every word he said had to be repeated in his heart several times before he could say it. It was not a good feeling at all. Come here, I'll cook for you at noon. Have fun. Yu Donglai paused for a moment, and then continued with a teasing tone. Boy, you stay in front of a love rival like Wang Xiaoyao. Are you hurt? Do you want me to comfort you? What love rival? Li Tianlan looked stunned. Didn't I tell you? Wang Xiaoyao, he has been in Huiting for 5 years, and he has been pursuing Little Bai for 4 years. He is infatuated with her and has put down his dignity. Even I, a bystander, feel sorry for him. Only she has a heart of stone and speaks to Wang Xiaoyao bluntly. Yu Donglai's voice was full of surprise and doubt. She didn't tell you? In the garden party, by the edge of the clear pool, Li Tianlan's pupils suddenly turned a touch of demonic blood red. Perhaps until now, after experiencing Qin Weibai's gentle words in the video last night, He was still not sure about his relationship with Qin Weibai. But when he suddenly heard that Wang Xiaoyao was pursuing Qin Weibai, he felt as if his most beloved and most cherished thing was being coveted. Violent rage surged in his heart almost at once, and his whole body was instantly filled with a trace of extremely cold killing intent. Yu Donglai seemed to realize that he had said something he shouldn't have said. He hurriedly said, "Boy, don't be impulsive. It's just Wang Xiaoyao's unrequited love. What's the big deal? Little Bai rarely shows up in Huiting, but it doesn't mean that she never shows up. There are many people who have unrequited love. What's so good about it? Don't you think so? If you care about this, you won't be able to finish killing people every day in the future." Li Tianlan closed his eyes. After a full minute, he opened his eyes. The blood red in his pupils had disappeared, and he had regained his calmness. He said flatly, "I'll go to your place now." He put down the phone and was about to turn around when Wang Yuetong's voice sounded behind him. "Senior brother Tianlan, where are you going?" "I suddenly have something urgent to do. I have to leave for a while." Li Tianlan turned to look at Wang Yuetong and said softly. Wang Yuetong was slightly stunned, and then she simply said, "Okay, we'll tell second uncle and then we'll set off. I'll give you a ride. I brought you here today to let you meet Xianxia. We've achieved our goal, and it's time for us to leave. It's a pity that we haven't had breakfast yet. The breakfast here is delicious." Li Tianlan's thoughts were a little complicated. He simply nodded and followed Wang Yuetong into the pavilion again. "Second uncle, senior brother Tianlan has something urgent to deal with. We'll leave first. We'll come to you during the next holiday." Walking into the pavilion, Wang Yuetong directly said to Wang Xiaoyao without waiting for breakfast. Wang Xiaoyao was stunned, and then he looked at Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan did not look at him. He just bowed slightly to Xianxia and thanked him again. "Thank you for your advice, Taoist." Xianxia nodded with a smile. His clear and complicated eyes slightly shifted and fell on the pool outside the pavilion. "I finally see that Yuetong came here today to let you meet the Taoist, not to see me, your second uncle. It's a failure for an uncle to do what I do." Wang Xiaoyao laughed at himself and came to Li Tianlan. He looked at Li Tianlan strangely for a while and continued to say with a smile, "Since you have something to do, go ahead." He fumbled in his pocket and took out a hard card from it. He handed it to Li Tianlan. "This is the membership card here. Take it as a greeting gift. Come here when you're free in the future, and I'll introduce some friends to you." Wang Yuetong tugged at Li Tianlan's sleeves and motioned for him to accept it. Although the card second uncle took out was not the most honorable supreme card in the garden party, no one would look down on this gold card no matter where he went. This was a gift of great sincerity. Li Tianlan looked down at the card in Wang Xiaoyao's hand. The card glowed with silver light, and it was hard to tell whether it was made of platinum or silver. There were no words on the card, only a vague pattern. The lines were simple, but the momentum was magnificent. If one looked closely, there seemed to be clouds and water splashes in the pattern, but the magnificent feeling made Li Tianlan think of the sky and the sea at once. The sky and the sea? Li Tianlan was slightly stunned. He suddenly found that the meaning of the pattern was a little similar to his name. Was it a coincidence? Or was there another reason? Li Tianlan's mind was running wild, but his expression was extremely calm. He reached out his hand, but he did not take the card. Instead, he pushed the card in Wang Xiaoyao's hand back and said with a smile, "Thank you for your kindness, Mr. Wang. But I'm studying at the Sky Academy, and I have too little free time. I'm afraid it's a waste to take this card. Forget it." He knew what kind of benefits would be brought to him by taking the card, and he also knew that his actions might be a little immature. But knowing that this man was pursuing Qin Weibai, it was impossible for him to call Wang Xiaoyao's second uncle again, take the greeting gift from him, and get to know his friends as a junior. There were some things that had to be done even if he knew it was irrational. He hid his stubbornness and pride deeply, but it did not mean that he did not have them. Xianxia looked at Li Tianlan in surprise. Wang Yuetong was even more stunned. She stared at him with a pair of big eyes. There were doubts, grievances, and some anger in her eyes. Wang Xiaoyao also narrowed his eyes and looked at Li Tianlan's expression seriously. Li Tianlan was still smiling. It was a kind of seemingly sincere but extremely pale smile without any inner meaning. He quietly looked into Wang Xiaoyao's eyes and did not give in. Okay, okay. The two looked at each other for nearly half a minute. Wang Xiaoyao smiled and slowly took back the card in his hand. He said, "Come often when you have time." Li Tianlan nodded casually and said, "Goodbye, Mr. Wang." He did not wait for Wang Xiaoyao to speak and directly turned to the parking lot. Wang Yuetong stayed there alone for a while. Then she suddenly stamped her feet and chased after Li Tianlan. Wang Xiaoyao looked at the card in his hand and casually threw it into the pool. He said with a smile, "This guy is a little interesting. Does he have a backbone? Or does he not like me? Taoist, what do you think? You are destined to meet this guy. I'm afraid there will be a lot of entanglements in the future." Xianxia said with a calm smile. "He has wind and thunder veins, but he is still so tough." Wang Xiaoyao thought for a moment and said, "I have never heard of this person before." Extreme prosperity leads to decline. Xianxia repeated these 4 words again, intentionally or unintentionally. Wang Xiaoyao looked at the old Taoist suspiciously. Then he seemed to think of something and his eyes suddenly became cold. "What do you mean?" After walking out of the garden party and sitting in the beige beetle, Wang Yuetong, who had been silent all the way, finally could not help but stare at Li Tianlan in the passenger seat and ask angrily, "Boring." Li Tianlan shook his head and said in a somewhat indifferent tone, "What do you mean by boring?" Wang Yuetong chased after him. She stubbornly looked at the man beside her, and her beautiful eyes were full of persistence. Li Tianlan did not want to speak and just shook his head coldly. He was extremely grateful to Wang Yuetong for her cooperation after the maneuver, for sending medicine, and for bringing him here today. But now, as the position of the Wang family of Beihai and Wang Xiaoyao's feelings for Qin Weibai appeared in front of him, he really did not want to have anything to do with this top wealthy family in Jianghu State, who he did not know whether they would be enemies or friends in the future. In his opinion, the conflict between him and the Wang family of Beihai in the future was almost inevitable. In this way, the more stories he had with Wang Yuetong, the more difficult it would be for her in the future. Instead of that, it was better to cut off the connection between them now. Even if they really became enemies in the future, their positions and views could be purer. Wang Yuetong looked at Li Tianlan for a long time. Seeing that he did not want to speak at all, she gritted her teeth, started the car, and stepped hard on the accelerator. The beige beetle suddenly burst out a sound that did not match the car model, and the car instantly rushed out. Li Tianlan was expressionless. Wang Yuetong pouted and did not speak. The beetle rushed out of the hidden path to the garden party and continued to drive. In silence, Wang Yuetong spoke again. "Why didn't you pick up the card?" "He's my uncle. Is it difficult for you to call him second uncle?" "Mr. Wang, it's so unpleasant to hear." "Li Tianlan, did I offend you?" Li Tianlan, who did not say a word, pretended not to hear anything. Wang Yuetong glared at Li Tianlan with hatred and muttered, "My kindness has been treated as ill intent by you." She became silent again. In the narrow space, the two walked in silence all the way, like a pair of young lovers who were in a cold war after a quarrel. A Passat parked on the side of the road appeared in their sight. The Passat's double flash was turned on, and it seemed to be malfunctioning. It was motionless. A man and a woman in their 30s who looked like a husband and wife stood on the side of the road, looking helpless. Although this place was already in the public area of Lanshan National Park, it was not too far from the garden party, and there were no famous attractions nearby, so there were very few cars on weekdays. The couple parked their car on the side of the road, waiting for rescue, saw the beetle coming. The wife's eyes obviously lit up, and she kept waving at the beetle. Wang Yuetong subconsciously stepped on the brake. "Speed up." Li Tianlan suddenly opened his mouth. His voice hurried and sharp. "What?" Wang Yuetong was angry. Hearing the dead man next to her finally opened his mouth, she said angrily, "I've seen this car and these two people before." Li Tianlan narrowed his eyes tightly. "When we came, they followed us for a long time." His memory and grasp of details had always been at an abnormal level. Not far from the Sky Academy, they stopped at a traffic light. Li Tianlan had once seen this Passat and even inadvertently made eye contact with the couple in the car. After that, the Passat followed them for nearly 10 kilometers before disappearing. At first, Li Tianlan just thought they were going the same way, and he did not think much about it. But now seeing this Passat again, he suddenly became alert. Wang Yuetong's expression changed. This place was more than 10 kilometers away from the garden party, but it was only 4 or 5 kilometers away from the crowded area ahead. How to make a decision? Wang Yuetong did not hesitate at all. She stepped on the accelerator and directly rushed forward. The sound of the beetle increased again. The compact body, which was obviously specially modified, instantly rushed out in an almost catapulting posture. In just 2 or 3 seconds, the car had reached a speed of more than 100 kilometers per hour. Watch out! The Passat behind them was getting farther and farther away. Li Tianlan's voice suddenly sounded again. Wang Yuetong, who was looking at the rearview mirror, looked up hurriedly. Straight ahead, a thick ice wall that almost filled the whole road appeared in front of them without warning. Wang Yuetong screamed. Li Tianlan had already reached out and pulled Wang Yuetong to his side. The next moment, the beetle crashed into the ice wall in front of them at nearly a speed of 150 kilometers per hour. There was a loud bang. You're tuning in to the Wisdom Diary YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.